Okay, moving on to public comments. We have a stack for Council President Nelson to read. She'll queue up the next person each time. And as a reminder, folks, please state your name and your address, and the limit is 3 minutes per person.
Once we get to close to 3 minutes, I'll give you a little wrap it up signal. First up is Mark Sullivan. After that will be Ann Johnson. And after that will be David Bell.
Madam Mayor, Madam President, members of the council. My name is Mark Sullivan. I live at 5544 Grassland Trail in Middleton. I served on the council for 12 years, all 12 of which I was chair of the Finance Committee. I also was on the Public Lands and Conservancy Lands committees, in addition to many other committees. The reason for my appearance tonight is, before I get going, I wanted to note that a month ago, the council made it happen such that $857,000 from the 2025 operating budget was returned to the general fund. And also on tonight's agenda, there is a funding for approximately, I think it's $4.5 million for the 2026 capital fund. As many of you may know, the bridges over the Pheasant Branch Creek between Century Avenue and Park Lawn have been deteriorating since at least April of last year. That's 13 months ago and counting. Since money is now no longer an issue, I would like to ask the council when those bridges will be repaired, as in my opinion, they present a clear public safety danger for all those who use those trails. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Mark,
Mr.
so
Sullivan.
much. It's good to see you. Up next is Ann
So,
Johnson.
excuse me,
Oh, pardon.
the
you still
question
have-
was to the council and to the executive members. When will the bridges be redecked? Does anybody have an answer?
We're not
As-
legally-
Yes, as you know, as a former council member, we don't respond at this meeting. We can take up your concerns and refer to the appropriate committee, but at this time, council does not respond to public comments received at the same meeting.
Okay,
Thank you.
I think that's the wrong message. I have gone to the Public Lands Director and I have asked some questions of the treasurer, chief operating officer, and have been insufficiently comforted that this is a priority for the council and for the city. Believe me when I say, what it suggests is that the council no longer has public safety as a priority for its citizens.
Mark, let me assure you, I've got your email and I'm going to send you a note right away. Thank you.
And I would like to add that this is the first time I'm hearing of this concern, and I can't speak for my fellow council members, but I'm going to speak for them and say that public safety is a concern of all of ours, so. Next.
Up next is Ann Johnson, followed by David Bell and Edgar Spalding.
Hello, my name is Ann Johnson. I live at 1720 Aurora Street, and I am the Vice President of the Friends of Quarry Hill Conservancy. Thank you for considering our group's request to remove the Quarry Hill Conservancy from the new TID district. We see on the newly drafted map under review tonight that there are some ways to carve up the parcels using the CMS process. We appreciate the exclusion of portion 3 labeled Conservancy from the proposed TID. However, we also believe the wooded portions on the hill adjacent to the skate park and parking lot should also be excluded. These wooded areas are included in portion 2 labeled mixed use downtown, despite the fact that on the city's zoning map, they are labeled as future land use conservancy and identified as an environmental corridor. By including them in a TID district, there's no way to guarantee funds would be used to improve them. I believe their inclusion is an invitation to develop them. Our position remains unchanged. We are opposed to the development of large apartment buildings either on conservancy land or on the edges of the conservancy because the damage it would cause would remain the same. This site cannot support the development of large buildings without blasting into the hillside, disrupting the ecosystem, harming all manner of wildlife, and destroying the unique biodiversity found in the conservancy. Please remove all undeveloped wooded areas from the TID, and please consider removing all parcels along Terrace Avenue from it as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you, Ann.
After David will be Edgar Spalding and then Angie Harris.
Good evening. I'm David Bell. I live at 1625 Middleton Street, area District 2. Noted that, and I just want to echo what Ann said, because I couldn't say it any better than she did. This area is so important to all our older districts here. I have visited this area and I'm just amazed at what a gem it is. And we don't get a second chance on this. There's no plan B. This should not be included in that TID thing and should be preserved forever because you can't buy this, you know. The money you would get for destroying it can be, you know, printed again and again, but the area itself cannot be replaced, cannot be regrown, cannot be anything like that. So this is our chance. We have to take it, we have to preserve it for Middleton, for the future, for the present and the future. Second thing I want to talk about tonight here is I want to urge the council to take action on the campus plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bell.
Hello, my name is Edgar Spalding. I live at 1714 South Avenue, which is in District 2. And I am here to say today, to let you know about something that happened in Middleton for the first time. It's a citywide birding big day, and it happened on May 9th. Middleton has bird city status, and that's must be earned. It's not just given. And I was asked earlier this year by Parks how their renewal application for bird city status might be bolstered. And I provided them all the data from the Purple Martin volunteers that I told them about what the success rate was and how we raised money to expand the colony and how many birds were banded and successfully produced. And I also said you should consider, or we should consider, having a citywide big day for birding. And a big day in the birding world is where you have 24 hours to find as many species as possible. But I'd never heard of one dedicated to a city or confined to a city before. And I thought, well, maybe I could, and I bet you nobody who sent in, no city who put in a bird city application had that on part of their community engagement activity list. So they said, go for it. And so I thought, well, if I can organize enough people, we could cover the conservancy areas in those 24 hours well enough. I said, we might get 100 species. That was one of my challenge. So I wrangled as many local birders as I could. And I was very pleased by how many people were motivated to help Middleton with this project. And we also built into the plan 2 guided walks for the public, even though it cuts into our hardcore birding time. Well, we had about 40 participants by the end of the day, and we got 124 species. Blew the doors off it. And people were so thrilled. The thing was a success, the application, and Middleton was just awarded high flyer status from the birding city. And the parks people told me that our contribution to the renewal application was an important part of that. Some of the birds, a few of the species that we found were only found in Quarry Hill Conservancy, weren't found in other places. I'm also here to speak against including any part of the Quarry Hill Conservancy in this TID project. In the press release that came out from the Parks Department about earning the high flyer status, the director of parks says Middleton's parks, conservancy areas, trails, and green spaces are part of what makes this community special. This recognition reflects the passion and dedication of staff, of volunteers, and community partners who continue to work to protect and enhance those spaces for wildlife and residents. All the people that do that know that there's a red-tailed hawk nest right in that spot that is proposed to be blasted away. I think that you can count on the volunteer part of this message evaporating if there's that kind of an assault on a conservancy land. I don't appreciate that little rectangular sleight of hand drawing on the map that was inserted into this map this time. You will destroy a lot of the goodwill that people. I
It's
see.
time.
I'm getting signaled out.
Yeah.
Well, I thought
thank you.
maybe because I had two issues, you know, there was the one on the bird sitting and the other. that
You
might-
get 3 minutes
I
for
get
whatever you
12
want to
other-
talk about.
Okay.
So next up is
So-
Angie Harris Ostrom, followed by Susan West. Thank you so much, Mr. Spalding.
Hello, my name is Angie Harris Osterman, and I am representing the Friends of Quarry Hill Conservancy. I live at 7708 Hillcrest Avenue. This week's changes to the TID map that you've been hearing about now include a portion of the environmental corridor south of the skateboard park and the adjacent parking lot. 2 years ago, the city of Middleton mentioned to the developer New Year Investments that the adjacent parking lot that sits between the developer's property, which is the old Verns, and the skateboard park may be an option, may be available to them to build their apartment building on or over. This week, this was brought to our attention by a concerned citizen. It's a poster announcing that Dane County's food scrap stop at the Middleton Quarry Skate Park will be moving because of, and I quote, future area development. Here are our questions. Is the inclusion of the wooded area south of Skateboard Park and the adjacent parking lot on this week's TID map paving the way for New Year Investments to build their 70-unit apartment building on Terrace Avenue? If not, what is the need to include these wooded parcels? Number two, is the future area development referenced by Dane County's food scrap stop posters actually a cloaked way of referencing a 70-unit apartment building on Terrace Avenue that will require blasting into a hill that is a conservancy and an environmental corridor? If it's not, what is Dane County referencing in this poster? What did we miss? Why was Dane County asked to move their efforts when rezoning issues have not been approved by the Common Council? There has not been an environmental study done on Verns. There has not been a traffic study done in the area. We have lots of other questions. Many issues and questions remain, but someone at City Hall notified Dane County to move because of future area development. What is that? We would appreciate answers to these questions. I guess not tonight, but soon. Thank you.
I'm Susan West. I live at 3542 John Muir Drive in District 6. I'm also a former council member and longtime member of Conservancy Lands. And I'm speaking in agreement with the Quarry Hill people. I will say the map is a little bit of an improvement, but it's not really taking into consideration a lot of what was said before, I want to repeat, this is an exceedingly unique piece of land. Southern Wisconsin was an oak savanna. There's approximately 1% of oak savannas left today. So this is a true historic piece of land. You could consider it a landmark even. We won't find it anywhere else close to the Madison metropolitan area. So we need to conserve it just for that reason. I will say I was pleased to see a part of the map was labeled conservancy. That's a help. But I still got lots of concern. This mixed use downtown, which is the skate park and the parking lot, those are parklands for the city. Mixed use downtown implies this is land that's for sale by the city. And that's what I think is really getting our citizens concerned. Not having enough faith in having no confidence in city council to maintain this as parkland and valuable to the city, but that it would be more important to sell it for who knows what, tall, big 5-story, 10-story building. This is not what we want. The mixed use downtown and conservancy area should be labeled as conservancy. And I think the citizens need to know that this is not land to be sold. It's in the TID only because they could use TID funds to help restore it and maintain it. But it's not a piece, it should not even be thought of as a piece of property that could be sold for economic development.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Does
West.
anyone else wish to speak?
Is there anyone online?
It looks like Alder.
President Nelson, I have a constituent who reached out to me a couple hours ago and asked that I read something into the record during public comment. May I proceed?
Please.
This is from Brian Wakeham, a resident at 7112 Keneal Trail. He would like to thank the city for continuing the process for the community campus plan. It is great that the city will soon start an RFP for the architect, as the design will drive the ultimate cost for the materials, labor, and ongoing maintenance of the structures. A couple of things to be mindful of, in his words. Number one, for good business and ethical procurement practices, I highly suggest that you avoid any dual architect, design, and construction companies, as having a designer bid on the construction would give an unfair advantage. Number two, work with other local communities to understand their approach and experiences with building projects in the last 2 years. What did they encounter in the post-COVID tariff environment? Examine the previous RFP proposals and costs, and be prepared to explain why one project was X dollar amount and ours is potentially double. People may not have all the facts, but they will have formed or ill-formed opinions. We will need to be transparent. Number three, seek architecture and construction experts that are residents and either retired or would not have any potential conflict of interest to be active members in the RFP review. Include folks with sustainability, building maintenance, ADA, and other meaningful experiences. Folks who can review the RFP and understand gaps and weaknesses of the architectural proposal would provide great value. Perhaps identified good steward roles, folks who will challenge scope creep, ensure that the work stays true to the original intent, and just ask the questions that the group may not see or feel uncomfortable to ask. Number four, understand the true needs and wants of each location and use weighted scoring to reflect these elements in your selection process. Middleton residents expect staff and the council to be good stewards of our tax dollars. While the projections that finance has put together are less worrying, you are still asking the taxpayers to pay more. Number five, reflect on what resources the city will need to maintain these new buildings as well as the existing ones. This includes providing timely preventative maintenance to ensure our investment can last for multiple generations. And number six, actively reach out into the community. There are folks that have expertise and might volunteer their time to invest in their hometown. And lastly, Mr. Wakeham said he supports the Quarry Hills Conservancy. When he sits at Barriques, he enjoys looking at the green trees. In his words, it would be a shame to have this area zoned for some high-rise apartment complex. Downtown has its own personality. More tall buildings would dampen our downtown atmosphere. It's time for neighboring communities to take on the challenges of population growth. And he mentioned Springfield. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Alder Opitz. Are there any other public comments, whether in person or online? All right, hearing none, then we'll move on to our next item on the agenda, which is proclamations. We'll start with the proclamation recognizing National Public Works Week, which is May 17th through the 23rd, 2026. And Alder Madden will read the proclamation.
Whereas public works professionals in the city of Middleton provide essential infrastructure, facilities, and services that protect public health, ensure safety, and support a high quality of life for all residents. And whereas the dedicated employees of Middleton's Public Works Department maintain and improve the city's streets, stormwater systems, and water utilities, ensuring reliable, efficient, and sustainable services for a growing community. And whereas Middleton's Public Works teams play a critical role in year-round operations, including snow and ice control during Wisconsin winters, flood mitigation and stormwater management to protect our lakes, creeks, and neighborhoods, and ongoing infrastructure maintenance and improvements that keep our community moving safely. And whereas our water utility employees provide a critical service protecting the public health, quality of life, and well-being of Middleton residents through the maintenance of our water infrastructure. And whereas these professionals respond in all conditions, often outside of public view, to emergencies, severe weather, and daily operational needs, demonstrating a strong commitment to service and community well-being. And whereas the work of public works professionals supports Middleton's continued efforts to be a sustainable, resilient, and connected community, preserving natural resources while supporting responsible growth and development. And whereas it is in the public interest for residents of Middleton to recognize and understand the essential contributions of public works professionals and the vital services they provide. And whereas the year 2026 marks the 66th Annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association.
Now therefore be it resolved that I, Lisa Hanairo, Mayor of the City of Middleton, along with the Middleton Common Council, do hereby proclaim the week of May 17 through 23, 2026 as National Public Works Week in the City of Middleton, and encourage all residents to recognize and thank our public works professionals for their dedication, expertise, and service to our community. Is there a motion to approve?
This is Madden. I'll move approval of the resolution.
Thank you.
Myers, I'll second.
Thank you very much. All those in favor of approving the proclamation recognizing National Public Works Week, May 17 through 23, 2026, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you to our Public Works folks.
You should go too.
Okay, the next proclamation will be read by Alder Charles Myers, and it is the proclamation recognizing May as Jewish American Heritage Month, excuse me.
Thank you, Mayor Hanairo. Actually, I'll be alternating clauses on this one with Alder Lorman since we're the two members of the tribe on council. Recognizing Jewish American Heritage Month in the city of Middleton. Whereas since 2006, Jewish American Heritage Month has been observed nationwide every May to recognize the more than 370-year history of Jewish contributions to our nation's civic, social, economic, and cultural life. And
whereas it is estimated that over 330,000 persecuted Jews from Germany, Russia, Poland, and several other countries overcame restrictions and immigration quotas to find refuge in the United States from the early 1900s up to the late 1980s. And
whereas it is estimated that over 33,000 Jews live in Wisconsin today, worshiping at over 30 active synagogues. And
whereas throughout our nation's history, Jewish Americans have advanced the cause of civil rights, social justice, economic opportunity, scientific innovation, artistic expression, military service, and public leadership. And
whereas Jewish Americans have made significant contributions to the arts, entertainment, science, and technology, government, business, education, culinary traditions, philanthropy, and countless other fields, helping to shape American culture and civic life. And
whereas the Jewish tenet, Tikkun Olam, translated from Hebrew as repair of the world, is all to Jews to pursue justice and righteousness for all of humanity. And
whereas the Jewish experience in America has consistently reminded us that liberty and opportunity ultimately triumph over prejudice and hate. Now, therefore, be it
Resolved that I, Lisa Haniro, Mayor of the City of Middleton, on behalf of the Common Council, do hereby proclaim May 2026 as Jewish American Heritage Month. And we join all Wisconsinites in thanking our fellow Jewish American citizens for shaping our country's character, strengthening our promise of religious freedom, and teaching us the virtues of justice, hope, and perseverance. Is there a motion?
Myers, I move approval of recognizing Jewish American Heritage Month in the city of Middleton.
Lorman will second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the proclamation recognizing May as Jewish American Heritage Month signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And I just, for purposes of discussion, when Dave and I were going over the draft for this, we actually agreed, which is
Unusual.
quite unusual. So,
Great. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Is there any item that needs to be removed for discussion? If not, then is there a motion to approve the four items on the consent agenda?
This is Alder Crow on behalf of Finance. I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Madden will second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda items 1 through 4 signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to agreements. The first one is the city developer agreement with VH Pheasant Crossing LLC for Pheasant Crossing Phase 2 contingent upon receipt of all fees and security instrument outlined in the agreement. Is there a motion?
This is Alder Crow to approve the city developer agreement with VH Pheasant Crossing LLC for Pheasant Crossing Phase 2 contingent upon receipt of all fees and security instrument outlined in the agreement.
Opitz will second.
Opitz will second. All right. Is there any discussion?
I think they have the wrong mayor listed.
Thank you, eagle-eyed Alder Schaefer. I think you're the second or third person to catch that, but that's good. Yes, Alder Myers.
So my discussion was, my understanding was that Alder Crow was moving the agreement as amended in Finance and Personnel forward.
We didn't amend it.
Oh, you didn't incorporate those changes in the in Finance and Personnel?
I don't recall there being
Okay.
changes mentioned. Are you
No.
referring to paragraph 36A?
Yeah.
That was included in the packet
Okay.
for, yes. So
Yeah.
that change was,
And the mayor did, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
all right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, excuse me, of approving the city developer agreement with VH Pheasant Crossing LLC for Pheasant Crossing Phase 2, contingent upon receipt of all fees and security instrument outlined in the agreement, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to our second agreement, it's the approval of task order number 26-123.1 with SRF for Donna Drive traffic safety analysis in an amount not to exceed $27,000. Is there a motion?
Myers, on behalf of Public Works, I move approval of task order number 26-123.1 with SRF for Donna Drive traffic safety analysis in an amount not to exceed $27,000.
This is Madden, I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Alder Myers and then Alder Lorman.
So the funding from this comes out of the pedestrian safety line item in this year's budget. That was a line item that created a consolidated pool of money for certain pedestrian safety expenditures that we'd previously been itemizing in the Public Works budget. Thank you, Ben and Abby and Daphne and Luke for bringing this to the attention of the Public Works Committee following a meeting that we had last year. I am really happy to be seeing this, and I'm incredibly excited to continue this practice going forward because it allows us to more competitively pursue grant applications for pedestrian safety.
Thank you, Alder Myers. Alder Lorman.
Yeah, this was brought to us by a constituent of District 7. There's a history of traffic safety problems along Donna Drive, including an unfortunate incident of primary middle schoolers actually being hit by a vehicle at the intersection of Donna and Century as well. So it's nice to see something like this actually move through the system quickly. It started out as reviewed by safety through Abby and Chief Thompson's monthly meetings and made its way up through the process. So thank you, everybody, for your work.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah,
Alder
and just
Madden.
quickly, I'd like to point out, because it was brought up in the Finance and Personnel Committee, that this was not in fact the lowest of the two bids that we received, but it was the most comprehensive and did include the most most focus on pedestrian and bicycle safety, which the other proposal did not.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving task order number 26-123.1 with SRF for Donna Drive traffic safety analysis in an amount not to exceed $27,000 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to licenses, we have one, Valentine's Books and Curiosities LLC, doing business as Valentine's Books and Curiosities, requesting a Class B fermented malt beverage and a Class C wine license located at 7457 Elmwood Avenue with Jessica Regal, 7427 Terrace Avenue, Wisconsin, as agent. Is there a motion?
Mrs. Madden, on behalf of the License and Ordinance Committee, I move approval of the Valentine's Books and Curiosities LLC requesting Class B fermented malt beverage and Class C wine license located at 7457 Elmwood Avenue with Jessica Regal, 7427 Terrace Avenue, Wisconsin, as agent, subject to the approval of our city attorney and our city clerk, with verification that the business will meet the statutory definition of restaurant.
Myers, second.
All right, thank you for that, both of you. Is there any discussion?
Just kind of curious because it's not really a restaurant. What's the purpose of the wine and beer?
Go
Unless
ahead.
they're gonna use the basement for.
Well, so this, there's two issues that arise with having to qualify as a restaurant. First, you should understand this. Nowadays, under the alcohol statute, to qualify as a restaurant is not necessarily a full kitchen. Basically, if you're serving any food really and require a restaurant license, you can qualify. So it's not intended to be a full service restaurant, and it wasn't in the initial plans. This discussion first came about because the Class B license, you can't have another business along with a Class B beer license unless you fall into one of various exceptions that really follow no rhyme or reason, but they are the exceptions. This one did not fit. There's no legal impediment to the Class C, but it would have also imposed some restrictions on underage people on the premise. So we had a lot of conversations between L&O and this meeting with the applicant, and they ultimately decided to solve both of those problems by working a restaurant into their plan so they can satisfy those statutory requirements. So what we would do, between Laura and I, we would review what they propose, make sure that they meet those statutory requirements, and that would be the trigger for issuing both licenses under this motion.
Thank you. Alder Myers.
Yeah, and thank you, Matt and Lori, for your flexibility working on this. The discussion at the L&O committee, we were concerned because we wanted to make sure that we're a welcoming place for this new business that's starting up. And we didn't want to be an impediment. We didn't want to unnecessarily add time to their process for getting going. So we, as a committee, decided that once our city attorney and city clerk were satisfied with these licenses, we were satisfied with the rest of the application.
Okay. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the license for Valentine's Books and Curiosities LLC, doing business as Valentine's Books and Curiosities for a Class B fermented malt beverage and Class C wine license located at 7457 Elmwood Avenue with Jessica Regal, 7427 Terrace Avenue, Wisconsin as agent, subject to city attorney and clerk approval.
Approval of the meeting these statutory requirements for restaurant license.
Thank you. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to miscellaneous. We have a couple items. First one is feedback on draft maps for new tax increment districts 7 and 8. Staff, how do you want to proceed with this? Do you want to explain the changes as you explained in finance and personnel? Do you want to?
Yes, I'll try to do a better job than I did in the Finance and Personnel Committee meeting. Brian, do you have the slides you can pull up? Okay, so at the last Common Council meeting, there was feedback from the council to consider some CSMs or certified survey maps to subdivide a couple of the areas that we were looking at for inclusion within the new TIF districts. So one was the airport, and that is relatively straightforward because that is one parcel of land that all has the same zoning and it meets the frontage requirements in our subdivision ordinance. The second area was the area south of Terrace Avenue here, including the Quarry Hill Conservancy, which is where we heard most of the public comments at the last meeting. So what we've included in the packet is just an outline showing how we may be able to subdivide the property. The first lot would be institutional. That's the property that would include the reservoir. And institutional zoning per the subdivision ordinance has a minimum frontage requirement of 60 feet on a public street. So lot 1, institutional, that is pretty straightforward. Lot 2, proposed as mixed use downtown. This follows the land that is currently zoned as MUD, mixed use downtown, and was previously zoned B4, which was our 0 lot line downtown district for, I think, 30 plus years. That is also relatively straightforward from a subdivision standpoint because it includes the land that is already zoned that way on its own separate parcel. And within the MUD section of the subdivision ordinance, there is no minimum frontage requirement. But as you can see, that parcel as it is proposed has significant frontage on Terrace Avenue. And I can't see that number, but I think it's about 300 feet. The part where it gets confusing is the conservancy piece. So the frontage for that parcel of land would have to come off of Reservoir Road, and it's about 57 feet of right-of-way. And the minimum requirement for land that is zoned institutional, as this land is zoned currently, is 60 feet. So it would not meet the requirements for the frontage requirements for under its current zoning as institutional. So what we were looking at is, could we rezone those properties to conservancy, because there is no minimum frontage requirement for conservancy. The reason that this is a little bit more complicated is that when we look at a rezoning request, we look at the future land use map and the comprehensive plan. And the future land use map shows the portion of that that is not conservancy land. So you can see the well immediately north of the frontage area. That is future land use institutional. So in order to rezone to, if we were going to subdivide that land and rezone it to conservancy in order to meet the requirements of the subdivision ordinance, we would have to amend the comprehensive plan to change the future land use from that section being institutional to showing it as conservancy. The utility infrastructure that is within that piece and is not part of the conservancy would need to have a conditional use permit because small scale utilities are not permitted uses in conservancy land, they are conditional uses. If it were already zoned conservancy, it could continue to exist as a previously approved or built non-conforming use. But because we are creating the non-conformity by rezoning the land to conservancy, we would want to issue the conditional use permit at the same time. So we would need to amend the comp plan, amend the zoning, and have a conditional use permit. And one additional factor with the conditional use permit is that that well is scheduled for tentative upgrades in 2030. And initial conversations with Public Works have indicated that it's possible that the footprint of the well would need to get larger, which means that if the city were going to go through this process to amend the comp plan, amend the zoning, and issue the CUP, we would want to identify the area for any future needed improvements and have only one conditional use permit issued. So from a timing standpoint, and I had kind of an outline on the PowerPoint slides that showed the timing of each one of those things. The comprehensive plan amendment would take about 8 weeks time because there's a public notification requirement. It requires a 30-day notice, which is longer than a rezoning application. So the comp plan amendment would take about 8 weeks. Then we would have to begin the rezoning process, which could run concurrently with the conditional use permit, but both of those also have public notification requirements. So all told, it would take some time to go through this methodology that we've included in the packet to subdivide the land in this way. We think that we can get it done in time for the public hearing that is required for creating the TIF district. But in order to meet the timeline, we have to start working on the CSM tomorrow. We cannot miss a day. I mean, it is a very, very tight timeline to get it done, but I've talked with our consultants at Vandewaal and they think that we could come in just under the timeline and go this path if this were the direction of the council. So we'll call this option 1. Another option that the council could consider would be to remove the city-owned property completely from the TIF district while keeping in, I think it's 44, 45, and 46. It's the Burns, the property to the east and the property to the south of Burns.
Can we zoom in, please?
Yeah, so we could take the city property out, keep those 3 smaller properties in. But then if we were going to go with option 2, in order to get contiguity for the district, we would need to include the Lycon property, which is kind of at the southwest intersection of Highway 14 and the Beltline. And so that would get us from Staybridge Suites on the east side of the Beltline, across the Beltline to the Lycon facility. And then we could go south from Lycon to pick up the VA Veterans Administration building, Steve Cohan's building on Terrace Avenue to get to the other properties on North High Point Road, if that makes sense. So option 1 is tricky because of the timeline, but we think we can do it. That would be the CSM, comp plan amendment, rezoning, conditional use permit. option 2, 46, 47, 48 have their contiguity from the Bakken building on the north side of Terrace Avenue and the post office. And then we would pick up the Lycon building in order to get contiguity across the Beltline and south to Steve Cohan's building.
Alder
We
Nelson?
have that option B. I'm sorry for my confusion. Does that mean we're taking 44 and 45 off of the?
So what I'm calling option B
Yeah.
is it would keep 45, 46, and I think it's 47. Maybe I should look.
I
at
think
that.
it's
46,
46,
47,
47, and 48.
Thank you.
Stays in,
So yes,
and
it
the
would
rest
keep
goes
those 3 in, coming from the north. And then it would take all of the city owns lands out. And then in order to pick up the other pieces on High Point Road and Steve Cohan's building, we would have to add in the Lycon.
Yep.
And Bill talked about this a little bit during the finance committee meeting, but, the Lycon facility, it would be, from the city's perspective, I think it would be a great redevelopment opportunity. However, in talking extensively with the owners, they have no intention to redevelop their property. That parcel, it doesn't include the whole Lycon site. That parcel that we would need to include has about 1.8 million in assessed valuation. So we're always, we kind of were targeting about $100 million in value to include within the new TIF districts to still stay well below the state's 12% assessed valuation limit. This would be a very small percentage of that, but it would, it would be including 1.8 million additional in assessed value in the TIF.
And the I'm sorry, go ahead, Alder.
Okay, yeah, I was looking for option C, but option B doesn't. It's like you still couldn't understand why all that property is in there at all. The 44, 45, 43, 44, 45. So your option C would remove that completely from the TIF district. Is that correct?
I
The
thought
3
we
big
were only talking
parcels
about
in the
1 and
city?
2. You might be creating a new option. What is your
Well,
option?
I kept wondering, it's the 43, 44, and 45. Why do they need to be in the TIF at all? I mean, it seems
That's
instead of
the
rezoning and
Conservancy.
doing this.
I think that is the B.
That is the B, so yeah.
option.
Okay, the Conservancy
Yeah,
land?
yeah, conservancy.
Yeah, I mean, it's been in the TIF district since 1993.
Hmm.
It could be in there for purposes of any utility upgrades that are needed. However, our intention would be to specify those as best as we can within the TIF district project plan.
And I strongly support the B, just taking those out of there. When someone is zoning was all put together, I don't think the city was even aware that the county had in fact designated this land as a conservancy pass-through land. So even the original zoning was not sacrosanct. The original zoning, sort of ignorance of the fact that that was in fact county conservancy land all along.
CARP-C, the Capital Area Regional Planning Commission, designates the environmental corridors. They commonly will include any public property that it looks like a park or a conservancy in whole. They will, they review, they don't drill down into the details of what constitutes the environmental corridor unless requested. So it's a very broad map that has been in place for a long time. I think 1 or 2 of the single family homes on North High Point Road are also in the environmental corridor. It's just a map that really doesn't get modified unless it's requested to be changed.
And I would add
I
that,
support B very clearly.
I would add that the skate park used to be in the environmental corridor and was presumably when it was built.
Yes. Yeah, and the
Oh.
parking lot as
Oh.
well, for sure.
Alder Mormon and then
Yeah, just a
Alder
question,
Myers.
Abby, refresh my memory because this goes back to almost 3 years ago now. So the property that, we'll just call it Vern's, and the property east of it, that's privately owned by a group that wanted to develop that.
Yes, that's
And
correct.
and it still is to this day.
Yes.
So we're not changing, or we can't change the zoning on that to other than what it is, which is for development, correct?
The Vern's property is zoned MUD.
Yep.
The property to the east, I'm pretty sure it's zoned single family, maybe it's two family, I can't remember.
It's two.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And then the property to the south, I believe, is also two family.
Okay,
We could not take the value of their land without compensation. So we could not designate any one of those three as a conservancy without purchasing the property. That would be, I mean, Matt Fleming will correct me if I'm wrong, but if we said that these are conservancy parcels now and they're only allowable for open space and preservation, I believe that that would take all of the economic value of their land and would be considered a taking. We would not be able to do that without purchasing those properties.
okay, so those properties are obviously still potentials for development by the property, private owner, which would go right up against the conservancy potentially.
Yes, and I guess one thing I would clarify is, and this is consistent with Pheasant Branch Conservancy and every conservancy area that we have in the city, is the conservancy is limited to the land that is designated as conservancy. So if you think about the buildings that are built along Pheasant Branch, there are no additional restrictions in the city of Middleton that are placed on lands adjacent to a conservancy. We have Cromrie Middle School,
Mhm.
directly adjacent to a conservancy. We have tall buildings adjacent to conservancies all over the city, and there is no restriction against that.
Okay, thank you.
Alder Myers?
Yeah, so I have a question about something that predates my time on council. So my colleagues who were on council then, please feel free to correct me. My recollection on this specific precedent is a little bit foggy because my second son had just been born prior to my streaming of that council meeting. So I didn't catch the entirety. There were other things going on. From what I remember, council decided rather forcefully that we didn't want to amend the future land use map in the comprehensive plan in between comprehensive plans.
That is correct.
And we have subsequently to that, as individuals sent, I know I have, and I think several others have brought it up in plan commission meetings. Communications reinforcing that particular precedent and that process. So if we want to abandon that for this purpose, I just want to make us aware of that specific precedent that we previously set and subsequently reinforced. Second, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Quarry Booster Station rehabilitation project. If Ben, you're willing to come up and talk a bit about that with me, that would be great, just so that some of the people here understand what separating the chlorine and fluoride treatment into different rooms will entail for the facility, the cost, but also improved operational safety that will come with it, and the necessity of doing that as we rehab this particular booster station, because while it was compliant with state regulations from the DNR at the time it was constructed, subsequent to that, the regulations have changed. and chlorination and fluoridation are no longer allowed to be done in the same room within a water treatment facility. So Ben, if you could talk a little bit more about that. Sorry to put you on the spot here.
No, not a problem. Not an expert by any means, but that's correct, as Alder Myers referenced. So regulations from the DNR has kind of given us guidelines for how we need to separate as we transition from chlorine gas to, it's called sodium hypochlorite. And so currently all of the city's well facilities besides well 8 have chlorine gas and fluoride in the same room. So there's a state guideline, NR 811.51.2, that mandated that fluoride acid shall be housed in a separate room. So that applies to the booster station that we're discussing, the Quarry Hill Booster Station, and that's slated for upgrades in 2030.
And Ben, if you can recall offhand what it cost us, and because I can't, so I'm just going to confess it was a pretty expensive project in the one well where we did approve separate facilities. If you can recall offhand what that specific change cost, that would be fantastic. If not, I totally understand. But if you can recall it.
I can give you what the probable cost will be of the improvements for the Quarry Hill Station. So that will be, right, obviously separating those chemicals, but then also making some repairs to the facility itself and adding a generator in the event of power outages, et cetera. So that would be around $1 million in terms of improvements that need to be made there.
And Ben, how many booster stations does the city have?
That I do not know off the top of my head, but I can quick look it up.
If you could please do that. But what I'm getting at for my colleagues here is that when our water utility made our master plan as part of its it's statutorily required that every so often a water utility conduct the process of developing and having approved a master plan. When the City of Middleton Water Utility went through our master planning process, we had what any reasonable person, and I say we, although I was not on the board of directors for the water utility at this time, but the water utility had what any reasonable person would consider an extremely aggressive forecast for population growth in the city of Middleton. And we actually went even beyond that. We have outpaced that in terms of population growth in the city significantly. And so the loss of function at a booster station and the loss of ability to sufficiently finance function at a booster station is not something that the utility will be able to support as we proceed with bringing well 7 online and shutting down 2 older poorly performing wells. So I want to stress to my colleagues that this isn't necessarily a simple matter of protecting the conservancy. There's also a matter of protecting safe and clean drinking water for all of our residents, and frankly, the ability to respond to a fire during peak flowage. This is all in the presentation prepared by Strand Associates, which I urged my colleagues to go through a few months ago, in case you want to take a look at the exact flowage figures and potential expenditures.
May I ask Alder Myers to sum up what you just said, you would be advocating to keep 43 and 44 in the TID for the benefit of
I think that.
funds being available?
Yeah, I think this is one of those situations where it's very important for us to make sure that we get this right. Staff have said that it is theoretically possible for us to meet all of the notice requirements if we start tomorrow and hurry and council changes a precedent, which we set regarding amending the future land use map in between comprehensive plans. Finance and Personnel discussed inclusion of certain certain assurances within the language of TID. I think that that we approve. I think that is a cleaner solution that preserves the ability of the utility, but all to respond to future demand while also preserving the Quarry Hill Conservancy and frankly, the potential use of funds for the Quarry Hill Conservancy, depending on the language we adopt.
Thank you. Ed, may I ask?
If I just could comment,
Go ahead.
because I understand exactly what you're saying, but one of the messages you're saying is that the Conservancy clearly doesn't rate as much as the water utility does in the $1 million expenditures, because clearly you've got a priority that puts that on top. But for a lot of the people in this room, myself included, a Conservancy is a huge priority. And so therefore, if there's a way we can balance the two, that's getting to at the end. But when you first said it, so we've got to protect the pump at all costs, as if the Conservancy just doesn't really count.
Because I've been addressed, I am going to take a moment to respond. John, I understand that I'm drinking coffee right now.
May I just remind everyone to
I know.
decorum is important, and
it is.
please let's address each other formally to
All
keep
right.
it.
Alder Schaefer, I understand that I am drinking coffee right now, but it's mostly water, and it's mostly water that comes from our wells here. And everyone in this room drinks that water. We need that is frankly more important. I like the Conservancy. I want to protect and preserve the Conservancy. But if you or anyone else in this room asked me what is more important, access to clean, safe drinking water for all of us in our daily lives and fire prevention during peak flowage, or the Conservancy, Angie, you know where I stand. It's going to be with the water we all drink. I'm sorry. It's not because I don't like the Conservancy. It's because I have an obligation to prioritize this.
Thank you, Alder Nelson. And then I would like Abby to, for the benefit of anybody who wasn't at Finance and Personnel, sort of sum up what the members discussed.
First, I want to just have an irrational rant that I'm sort of sad that these were ever put in the middle of Conservancy. Secondly, is it I understand that it's money, but is there a possibility that when we need a larger reservoir and we need a larger booster station, that it goes somewhere else?
Then I think Luke's here to bail you out.
Luke, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I guess I can take that. So the question was, is there an option to just move the well? Is that
I mean,
correct?
not that it has to be closed, but when we need more, we go somewhere else. So this one doesn't have to get bigger.
So I guess the way I would address that is that drilling a new well would be substantially more expensive. To drill the well, build a weld house, all the chemical additives, chlorine, fluoride, that would be a very significant expense.
I'm going to go to Abby first to explain the Finance and Personnel Committee.
So one idea that was brought up and discussed during the Finance and Personnel Committee would be to keep the maps as they were originally proposed, in this location include all of the properties, but to specify within the TIF district project plan that there could be language, so I'm just coming with this off the cuff, but am open to any suggestions, but there could be language within the TIF district project plan that would say, for all lands designated as conservancy by the CLC plan that was recently adopted, there will be no private developments, no, there could even be no utility improvements within the conservancy designated land. The only use of TIP funding within that area would be for conservancy related improvements like paths or whatever else at the direction of the council you might want to see included there. And one more thing that I thought I should raise, because we talked about the land acquisition piece, how we would have to acquire. TIF could be a funding source if the city wanted to acquire land in that area. And I don't know that the city would have any other methods of funding that, because park funds would not be available, because park funds are only for active use. And so it would be, I mean, that would be another option that would be given to the council, that would be outside of the traditional capital budget.
Thank you. May I ask if anyone who hasn't spoken would like to speak? Thank you. Go ahead, Alder Crowe.
And just to clarify, again, on the map where 46, 47, and 48 burns in the residential properties there. Potentially we could change that to mixed use downtown.
That would be the discretion of the council for
yeah.
rezoning property.
And remind us what's the tallest that they could build then with that, and what kind of restrictions are there? Because we've heard a lot about, digging into the hill or blasting into the hill.
Yes.
What kind of constrictions might be there, or restrictions to preserve the land above or the view
Yes,
from
so
the hill?
the mixed use downtown district is very similar to the B4 district in our old zoning code. And that property has been zoned that way for probably 30 years.
Right.
In my opinion, it is consistent with the rest of the downtown. There is a 5-story building right across the street from Burns. So that is what would be allowed under MUD, is you would be allowed 5 stories in height, which is a natural zoning classification for a downtown area. It is also 5 stories in height is also allowed along the entirety of the University Avenue corridor, both sides from Park Street east to the city limits. So just to give you a sense of that, when we went from the old B4 zoning district to the new MUD, there are actually more restrictions placed on MUD, because under the old code, it was a 0 lot line zoning district. So you could build like the entirety, like think about some of the older buildings in downtown, like the Opera House that has no side setback. Whereas the new MUD district has setbacks in areas where it's adjacent to residentially zoned properties. So 5 stories by right would be allowed under MUD zoning. And then there was a second part to your question. Now I forgot what that
Any
was.
restrictions on environmental impact?
Yes,
That
thank
could be
you.
imposed?
So my understanding from working on a previous project that had blasting proposed as part of it is that is a heavily regulated activity, but it's heavily regulated at the state level. So I don't think the city would have any restrictions beyond the state requirements for that method of construction. It is pretty common that it happens in other parts of the city. I don't think that there would be anything regulated at the city level for that.
Nothing that we could do necessarily, other than state.
For property that already has permissive zoning, I would say probably not. And again, Matt, please correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yeah, no other way comes to mind.
okay.
Alder Myers?
Yeah, I just had two quick things to add. First, when Luke, was asked about the cost of potentially drilling a new well, that would range in the hundreds of thousands of dollars to potentially over $1 million, depending on a number of factors. Luke, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that is my recollection based on our last discussion. So please feel free.
Yeah, admittedly, I don't have a number in front of me, but I would expect in the millions for just the well alone.
And that's not for building the building around it or anything else, which, for some context for my fellow committee members, we're looking at approximately $6.5 million to bring a new well online. These are not cheap for the utility. Second, I actually, in a past career, had to look into state blasting permits. That is not a city issued permit. That is a very specialized sort of engineering that Luke would probably lose his professional certifications over if he tried to issue the permit himself. So that's a state regulated permit. It's the Department of Safety and Professional Services, which was merged with several other departments under a previous governor's administration. I can get you in contact with who to talk to if you'd like outside of this meeting, if you have questions about that. And that wraps it up because I think we've belabored the utility point enough.
Thank you. Any further comments on this feedback
Just a
item?
quick one with Abby.
Yes.
That's the first I'd heard of that plan. And to me, the importance is conserving the conservancy. And if it stays in the TIF, but it's locked in with the wording that keeps it safe and protected as always a conservancy, that's important. I think there's a lot of conflating this stuff with the MUD and the Hill, which are two different things and two different issues, and we can't solve them both in one, but I certainly would be more okay with keeping things in the TIF district if we could literally write in that what you spoke. So I think that's a good way to look at going.
Alder Madden?
Yeah, and that's kind of what we came to as a conclusion as the finance committee as well, that it was important to maintain the conservancy and actually potentially improve it in that more people can access that conservancy land and really take advantage of that space as an urban green space. Again, we would need to write in language of that, but leaving the TIF maps as they're drawn gives us that flexibility without making staff go through an enormous amount of hoops to theoretically make something happen or to add something to the TIF district that isn't going to be redeveloped and that doesn't help the city or the landowner. So that was, yeah, that was my recommendation.
Alder Lorman?
Yeah, I think that was exactly the question I brought up during the first round when we got into this, and Brian actually answered it, because when you go from that section back out to the airport, it's conservancy all the way for that district. And that was my question: why is conservancy in the district in the first place? And so clearly having language in there that keeps that conservancy and affords us opportunity to maintain and call it improve the conservancy would be very beneficial.
Thank you, Alder Nelson.
I really like that idea as well. I just wonder what happens when we have to improve the booster station.
So I don't have it handy right now, but the map that's included in the Conservancy Lands Plan does have that area that's the utility infrastructure outside of the conservancy area.
Okay.
So it's not designated conservancy.
Okay. Any further discussion? Yes, Alder Jones.
Yeah, I think we're all in favor of the conservancy. I don't think anyone here is against it, and we all appreciate the importance of those lands.
Thank you. And staff, you do not, this is not on our agenda for action tonight, correct?
We were just looking for direction on how we should begin to work on the project plan, because we have to have the draft project plan ready to go for our joint review board meeting on June 23rd. So we wanted to know which land you want included, because that will identify how we write the project plan.
Do you feel you have that direction?
Yeah, what I'm hearing from the council is we will stay with the originally proposed maps, and then we will bring back language in the TID project plan that will explain how we intend to protect all of the land that is designated as conservancy.
And that goes for both, well, that goes for the whole TID, correct, including the airport parcels, or?
I think that the airport parcel, we might still need to do that CSM
Okay.
because of the blight requirement,
Yep.
the blight
The-
threshold requirement.
Okay. All right. Understood.
And along those lines, if I may,
Yes, Alder Opitz.
Abby, the CSM for the airport that's proposed in concept, how are those lines determined? The north-south line in particular? The placement of it?
I don't have the answer. I think it was an estimate. It obviously is aligned with the east part of the paved runway.
Yeah.
But I think it was an estimate for, this is the amount of land that we could include while still meeting the blight determination and the frontage requirements for the CSM.
The reason I ask is because I'm aware of some stormwater issues. In fact, if you look at the east end of the runway, as you mentioned, and go north from there, I believe those dark areas are ditches. And there's obviously a north-south, well, it's hard to tell if that's a ditch. I think it is. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, this area. And I just wondered, I know that we could there and also next to across from north of 4 and 5, there's an old taxiway actually, or taxi lane, I guess it would be called. So I was just curious what guided the delineation of the CSM. So
What we heard during
Yeah.
the feedback from the council during the last session is that they wanted to kind of focus on the east, including the eastern part.
right,
And so we can adjust that line. But I think we were just trying to make sure that we can stay below the threshold for the blight determination.
Alder Lorman.
Yeah, that came up at the last airport commission meeting. I don't think we're looking at significant changes, to the existing CSM. There's actually that strip that you referred to, Mark, would be a benefit to get rid of because it would increase, it would remove concrete. So there would be more non-impervious land, right? Yes, thank you.
One thing we could look at is if you want to stay with the CSM as we've conceptually drawn it here, we could do that. And if there are specific improvements that you think we might need for stormwater management or other public improvements, we could include those within the project plan, and they would be within the half-mile buffer.
understood. I knew that. Yep. Thank you.
All right. If the staff feel like they have clear direction from the council.
Thank you.
We will conclude this particular agenda item. I'm mindful of the request from last time to break after an hour. It has now been an hour and 25 minutes, so without objection, I will call a 6-minute break.
Thank you, Mayor.
Be back at 8:30 on your watches.
6 minutes. Oh, sorry. I'm going to.
Oh, so it's not, well, I met Alex at the Pocket Parades, and then I did go home. I was gonna take the top to the bed because Stacy's got.
Which the plan is, the tipping.
But then he volunteered.
Is if somebody voted down and
Yeah.
did not resign, the thing is, you know, if it goes back, it's not going back for long.
No, I'm not sure that New Year.
And I think it's
Looking to redesign. Like, I haven't heard
They
anything.
took that fall right on the top of the university, the UW, the Park Street development, we were putting in 6 or 7 massive.
Are you enjoying the?
Oh.
There used to be the Asian. market.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Holy cow, that's what doing this project. to do.
Oh, wow.
So they took on a massive.
Well, and I'd like.
I think if they could find somebody just willing to buy that, they would have done it.
Well, and I think that's just it, is that, you know, Abby brought up a good point. If we put the tip funds to do it, the city would give you.
Yeah.
Right, like, I don't,
Yeah.
you know, and you know, I'm coming at it from a perspective of, if we're going to treat that as a conservancy, then it needs to be accessible to. Right, and right now, the only way you get there is going up the driveway that says no trespassing, right? So I mean, I agree with the neighbor, I would love to see that,
Yeah.
hikeable, right?
I mean, you're at the top, practically on the top of the hill range or something. That's probably- When you're coming from the north, coming into Middleton, it's the first part of Middleton, you really see, you come around the curve, you're coming on 12, and soon you see that whole thing. That's incredible.
It is, and it's debilitatingly expensive to try to do anything with that. And it's like, the idea that we're gonna level it and put a parking lot there, it's.
No, I drive on almost every day going by the daycare and the buses come in. And people don't want to pay to park in T-Malls garage. It's a nightmare driving.
Yeah, it's.
You have another 80 cars being murdered, it starts to get crazy. It's
I don't
not
know,
a not used street, you know, it's
I
not.
could see some kind of cool, like Middleton Hills style mixed use. You know, you go right in there, and there's like one or, is it one story of apartments or two? I think it's just one. I think it's
Okay, it
mixed
could
use at
even
the
be 2 or
bottom.
3, you know, there's all these
It
3
could
and
be.
4 story apartments going on university, they're not breaking, they're going broke by being 4 stories or 3 stories.
Well, the Kestrel should have been.
Kester should have been. The other 2, they didn't have to be 5 or 6.
And here we're going to.
You know, when I listen to most of my constituents, particularly ones down. The thing they still so desperately need is an affordable grocery store.
Yeah.
And everybody in all the developments were all, the post office, every single one of those developments over 30 years promised they were gonna bring in a grocery store. It never happened.
Nothing.
But even if it was just a small, you know, like there's some of these little Mexican grocery stores. You know,
Like a
10,000
bodega
square feet,
kind
like
of.
it's something, even, you know, something that would be in that neighborhood, like a quick trip without the gas pumps or something.
Right.
Would to me incredibly serve those apartments in those neighborhoods, and it would be 1 or 2 stories tall. But again, sort of a mixed use of 2 stories and put offices on the end, something to balance across.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like I like the comment we got about, you know, small, not tall.
Yeah.
We don't.
know what they want. is to protect.
And next year,
Loan
we'll
and
make sure it's
that's-
earlier.
This sort of offers to me, and I need to go back, and say, we have saved the conservancy. Very tight.
Oh, it's at the school board too?
When that comes up.
Okay.
And that's not
Yeah.
coming for a
Oh,
while.
no. Okay.
It's not sitting there, just fuming and waiting to jump.
Well,
Okay.
and it's,
Right.
it's going to be expensive
Members?
to remediate that soil.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for your support.
All right, it is 8:31 and we have left the door. Is Alder Crow coming back from that doorway because it's been left unsecured?
Alder Schaefer.
But
No,
Schaefer.
oh, that was me
Alderman
then.
Madden went after me and I told her it's now your responsibility.
And I forgot because I was trying to get back.
Okay, so we'll move on to, I'm sure this will be a much shorter discussion. Just kidding. We're resuming. It is 8:32. Next item is discussion, consideration, and potential action on next steps for the community campus project.
This will be a fast one.
Alder Crow.
May I start?
Yes, you may.
Community campus is important to me. I think you guys know that. And I serve on the library board, and in the packet and addressed to you guys was a letter that the library board had put together. And we definitely want this to move forward tonight if we can. So I guess I will start with a motion and then we can have discussion about it. So I'll make the motion to direct staff to develop an RFP process to select an architect to begin a project not to exceed $100 million for the community campus program.
Lauren, I'll second that.
All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. Alder Crow, would you mind just repeating the motion so we can capture it? I have to direct staff to develop an RFP process to select.
An architect
Mhm.
for a project not to exceed $100 million for the community campus project.
For a project not to exceed $100 million for the community campus project. Thank you. Discussion, and Alder Crow, as the maker of the motion, you can go first.
Again, I'm supportive of this. I realize that, well, and as the letter from the library board stated, library's been thinking about this for a long time, and we realize it's not just the library, it's City Hall, it's the senior center, it's space needs, it's money that's being spent on repairs to all of the buildings. And the idea that we need a community center or community campus, buildings that can be a place for community to gather, to come together, to be in projects together, to do programming together. That's important, and it's not cheap. And I guess I would say the first step is trying to figure out what we can do and how much it would cost. There's a possibility that we won't have to spend $100 million if we can find a way to cut costs. If there are members of the community who want to contribute in however way, through Friends of the Library, support at the Senior Center, different ways, Downtown Businessmen's Association, Chamber of Commerce, however we can reduce costs. So.
Thank you. Alder Nelson.
I just would like to add on to what Alder Crow has already said. I agree completely with him that we need this. Our community needs this. Our community deserves this. So we need to do this for the community's sake. This is going to be multi-generational project. So this is our chance to do it right. We need to get going on this so that the costs don't change and we're starting over again.
Alder Lorman.
Yeah, I've reached out to, call it, my, temperature gauge constituents. And, I would say, District 7 is historically a fiscally responsible and prudent, representation of the city of Middleton. It's not an area with, some of the highest, shall we say, rent districts. And there's support for a community campus. There's no doubt about it. There weren't opinions regarding highly competitive, it's not about putting, our three needs against each other. It's support for doing everything that needs to get done.
Thank you. Alder Opitz.
I guess I have a question for Alder Crow. 100 million is a very round nine-digit number. Why not 85 million or 110 million? Because those are two of the scenarios that were outlined by our finance team.
True. And I thought about that. I want a little bit of a compromise. I'm not sure that 85 million is enough to do what we want to do. And I'm guessing that there would be some objection to 110 as being too expensive. So say gut feeling, compromise, pick a number. And the scenarios that we did put out there were just that. They were,
right.
What impact would these dollar amounts have? We could pick 99,955,000.
Well,
we could pick any number we wanted, essentially, but
I agree with Alder Crow. I think it's a binding device that sits there, and whoever becomes the architectural firm has to look, and they're gonna have to start to make some choices and look into it a little deeper than maybe we have. But I think it's good to put that sort of cap there a little bit lower than you think it ought to be. But I think it would be a good thing. But yes, and I agree, we need to move forward with this thing. I look at the population number of the city, we've grown up 40% or something in the last 15 years, and we need to grow with it. So I think it's a good thing, and it's a good time to go. I can now go back to sustainability committee who wanted to put plant markers in plants all in front of City Hall, but they said, what's the status? If we put them up this year, they're gonna be gone next year. So well, you better wait till after this meeting.
Alder Myers.
So from an operational continuity standpoint, I understand the need for certain facility improvements. However, I am uncomfortable voting for approval of anything over $85 million without a non-binding, but still, I think, important citizen advisory referendum on this project. That would not preclude us from moving forward with the RFP. But I would ask Alder Crow if you would accept as an amendment to your motion the RFP process to be done in tandem with an advisory referendum. This is a large expenditure. I think it's important for our entire community to be consulted in a meaningful way at the ballot box as well.
Alder Crow, would you like to respond?
yeah, and I guess going back to Alder Opitz's question about the dollar amount is I don't necessarily see the 100 million as a definitive, that's what it's going to be. Kind of, again, what I said in terms of contributions we might get. Architectural firms may say we can do a random number of things that will cost these different amounts, but I think the city needs that direction for a certain dollar amount in order to get the RFP out there to do that. In terms of a referendum, I'm a little bit torn on that. I think legally we don't have to because we're not raising tax rates as much. I realize that it is an expense that taxpayers will have to take on. Again, depending on how much the final project costs. So, and I guess I would almost say, let's wait on the referendum question until we've got a more solid idea of, once the council decides, yeah, we want to go with this plan and it's going to cost us this much.
Alder Nelson?
We had a survey done that gave us the answer that people are supportive of it. And since we don't have to go to referendum, I feel like we have that feedback. Also, I lost my point, so also nothing.
Okay. Alder Myers?
For the record, this survey contained 44 responses. Middleton is a city of 23,000 people. That is not a representative sample. Alder Crow, I understand where there's some uncertainty about timeline and everything else. My concern is because I actually do see a very clear need for certain facility improvements. And I also see, and I think you and Chris may see it a little bit better because of your particular career backgrounds. But I see the federal funds rate, and along with it, a number of other rates that more closely track to the cost of municipal bond issue going up significantly over the next, say, 6 quarters or so, based on the increase in certain commodity prices and our increasing inflation rate as a result of that. So I don't want us to delay the referendum past November, but I also really don't want us to put ourselves in a position where we're starting the conversation on the referendum in August. So I think it's important for those things to move in tandem so that if we get a green light from the people here in Middleton, that they are comfortable with up to $100 million, that we can move immediately. Whereas if we wait longer, we're opening up a new can of worms where we're trying to compete for oxygen on this with other more high profile elections. So I'm thinking more conversation is better. That's always been what I've stressed during these meetings. More conversation and more engagement with our constituents. So I'm comfortable voting for your motion if it includes that referendum. If it doesn't, I'm afraid I'm going to have to vote against it because I'm just not comfortable above 85 million.
Okay. Alder Nelson?
The thought I had that went away from my head was that the fact that our finance director, Bill Burns, put together such clear, doable options for us, that I think that the fact that we have the survey that tells people, and we had public information sessions where we got positive feedback, combined with the fact that Bill Burns has put together these really doable plans, I feel that we don't need the referendum, and I will not agree to seconding the motion if it is included.
Yes, Alder Madden.
So I was about to say something very similar to what Alder Nelson said, in that I think that Bill did a wonderful job of outlining exactly what the tax implication is going to be for residents with a medium home income. And I think that the $85 million limit was about 47-ish dollars a year. If I'm remembering that correctly, or somewhere thereabouts. We voted as a council to raise the recycling rate for folks, as I think that was $74 a year. And we did that without going to referendum. That's actually a bigger expense than the potential tax implication of the building that we're trying to put together. I think that if we need to go above and beyond, if we're talking about hundreds of dollars per year in taxes that is going to be affected, or the residents are going to be affected by a much larger amount than what Bill has outlined, then yeah, maybe we do need to talk about a referendum. But I'm comfortable moving forward with the project going to RFP for architect. The only question I have is whether we go with that $100 million figure. My dealings with contractors over the years say that if you give them a $100,000 limit, that they're going to do a $120,000 project. And that I think if we put a bigger constraint on the architect and to keep in that $85 million range that we discussed with the financing options, that keeps that scope of the project in line with what we need it to be.
Mr. Banks, do you have anything to add before?
Yeah, I just wanted to add briefly with the Alder Myers brought up interest rates perhaps going up. I mean, they could also perhaps go down. It's very difficult to speculate on interest rates in either direction. And I mean, if you could predict interest rates, you would be a billionaire. So I don't think speculating on interest rates in either direction or saying that they're going to go up or go down is something that a decision here should be based on.
Alder Opitz, have you spoken to this issue yet?
I was just asking what the basis for the 100 million was.
Okay.
And I guess from a procedural standpoint, rather than asking for an amendment, there either could be a motion made or we were talking about the motion that's before us, right?
Yes.
So, okay. I don't think we should talk about something that's not before us.
Okay. Alder Myers.
So Kim, you mentioned a cost in the hundreds of dollars. The actual per household tax implications of this are in the hundreds of dollars. The only reason it's not an increase of over $300 per household, according to figures that Bill prepared in response to last meeting, is very specifically because of the closure of TID 3 in this fiscal year. That's why. Otherwise, the actual number is $300 plus whatever goes on in addition to that.
Alder Nelson.
Just to say respectfully, but that's why we're doing it now. Right?
Alder,
I'm sorry.
Alder Lorman.
I think the clarification was, and this is just going back to when I was on finance and personnel, it's because of the district that's closing. If we were to close it and not take on additional debt capacity, you would see this dip. So what we're doing is we're talking about what it would be in addition to maintaining the debt level, in addition to adding on to the debt needed, to build this project. So that's why the dollar amount is what it is. And so. Yeah.
Alder Madden, did you want to propose an amendment to?
I would, because I'm more comfortable with that number. I'd like to move that we amend Alder Crow's motion to say it is an $85 million limit as opposed to a $100 million limit. I'm comfortable with the rest of the language as is.
All right, so Alder Madden has made a motion to amend the main motion to limit the cost not to exceed to $85 million. Is there a second?
Myers, I will second in the spirit of compromise, Randall.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the $85 million not to exceed figure? Alder Crowe, since you made the original motion, I'll give you the opportunity to speak first.
Yeah, I guess when I think of the possibilities of a community campus center, not just maintaining what we have necessarily, but creating new spaces potentially as well. I know there's there's been talk about having emergency response areas, places where community can go if they don't have power. I realize we have senior center and library can be open for those types of things, but more of a, if we need to hand out food or water, where do people go to do that now? A big distribution center, that's potentially something that could be included in this building. So I'm leaning more toward what else can we add to it rather than, and I guess I see the 85 million as kind of let's replace what we have and expand a little bit for the expanded population that we need for these spaces. But I also do see this as a community campus center where there are some other possibilities that can help the city out that, 30 years from now, people will say, wow, this was a great idea. We could really use this space. This is a good space.
Alder Nelson.
I agree with Alder Crow completely. Like I mentioned earlier, this is our chance to do it right now for people. It has to last a long time. We have to be able to accommodate the growth that we saw in our packet that's continuing. And the space needs are going to continue.
If I may add to, take a moment just to add to what Alder Nelson is saying. One thing that we learned today at the Emergency Preparedness Commission meeting is that it has been recommended that we move our Emergency Operations Center to City Hall away from the police department because of access restrictions. That fits right in with what Alder Crow was saying about new spaces and new services and new functions. That was the first we heard of it. So now you all have heard about it too. And then we'll go to, Alder Opitz had his hand raised first, and then we'll go to you, Alder Schaefer.
Obviously, I'm one of the 2 new council members, and in my prior role with the city, I was not directly involved with this project, so I do have some questions. The information shared with the public, I don't remember what document I pulled up. Let me just see if I can find it. Anyway, there's a reference, and there's a table with the different scenarios that talks about the scenarios, the A, B, and C compared to community goals. And for scenario B, the $85 million option, the chart indicated that it does not address compact land use and that it does not adequately meet parking needs. Could I just have a little more explanation? Obviously, there's no design before us specifically, but is there a reason why it was felt by staff that compact land use is more difficult to achieve with scenario B, whereas scenario C, the $110 million option, envisioned that could be addressed as well as the parking needs? Is there a summary, without going more than a minute or two, is there just a general summary as to why compact land use was a concern?
Well, but generally speaking, we're trying to tailor these scenarios to the concepts that were given to us by the architect that was working with us at the time. And this middle scenario B, the 85 million, generally speaking, correlated with the scenario 3, which had some rehab of existing facilities, but did not have a bunch of underground parking. So it was mainly surface parking, if I remember correctly, Abby. And so there wasn't really the ability to get all of the needs for parking that we could in that particular design scenario.
My laptop just died, so I can't pull up any of the options right now. So I can't remember off the top of my head which we were comparing, but I think it was related to parking.
Thank you.
Alder Schaefer and then Myers.
Yeah, just 2 things. One, I agree with Alder Nelson and Alder Crow. I think that we get one chance to do this and it's gotta last 30, 40 years. Well, I might buy a t-shirt from Costco. I'm not gonna go buy a tuxedo there. We need to do this right. And I think this is the wrong time to really seriously be nickel and diming if it gets to what we don't want. My recollection of scenario B meant repurposing part of the buildings we have. And I think when the council went through this at least a year ago, it seemed pretty clear that the council was not really into those scenarios that looked at rehabbing some of these buildings. So that was also part why I still support $100 million in respect, I'll vote against the 85 million.
Alder Myers.
Yeah, so part of the reason why we're going to RFP is for new and innovative proposals. As my colleagues who are on council may recall, a very small minority of us were actually satisfied with the firm that did the work on this survey. This survey was incredibly flawed in this study was incredibly flawed in a number of ways. Not the least of which is that it failed to consider the specific soils that we would be building this underground parking on. It used a fairly standard assumption about the PSI for the soils here in downtown Middleton. That assumption is not accurate. You will be peering down to bedrock if you want to do underground parking and support the weight of the structure without serious settlement. If you attempt to build on these soils, that is going to be a very expensive design constraint. I'm not trying to negate that in my advocacy for $85 million. I'm saying that, yes, we do need to move forward with something which addresses the space needs and building needs. But we also need to be responsible about what we are spending, and we need to be responsible with other people's money. We can't go out into the community and say to them, have you considered using the internet's library instead of internet at your home? That is not something that is going to fly. So what I'm asking us to do is prioritize what's the most important thing. And when we do approve that $85 million, as Kim pointed out, I unfortunately do expect that it may expand. And then we'll have to make a choice based on the RFP before us. What is most important for this city? But if my colleagues want to vote for a much more expansive proposal and an open-ended top beyond the $100 million with any potential inflation that comes with it, you're welcome to do that. I'm going to vote against it unless we engage the community with an advisory referendum.
And just to clarify, nobody is suggesting an open-ended top. Am I right, Alder?
Yeah,
Crowe?
the motion was not to exceed.
Yes, thank you. Alder Opitz.
Thank you. So I went back to the archives and looked at the 7 options that had been presented roughly a year ago, I think that was, and would just point out that the original most expensive option was $137.4 million. And so, as I have a vague recollection of this desire to keep a project to 100 million because it's a nice round number, at the same time, I'm recognizing that our staff took the time to put together 3 funding scenarios for 65, was it? 65, 85, and 110. So the 110 is, in looking at the concept designs and the goals that could be achieved, was already a significant reduction. So this may surprise people based on my previous questioning, but I'm going to offer a substitute motion of $110 million as the number that we would be working with, and just we can have a vote on that to see where that's going.
Nelson will second.
Okay. Members, do we want to discuss this $110 million option, or has the discussion of the 100 million and 85 million given us a sense of where people stand? Alder Lorman.
Yeah, I was, just to share where I stand. So when we jumped into this project initially, the very first presentation, I was not pleased at all, and I was unhappy, and $137 million. And just the way it was presented, I outright thought that was just ridiculous beyond all measures. And then started getting some constituent feedback. and realizing that the dollar amount would have to come down. So I think what's in front of us, you know, the three options are more palatable. And to Randall's point, I think, you know, he's saying not to exceed. And so if we can find something to work with within a range that, you know, is closer to the middle option, but understand that there's growth involved, or not growth, but inflation and other factors out of our control. I just, that's where I get a sense of support.
Other comments? All right, then we'll vote on the substitute motion by Alder Opitz, seconded by Alder Nelson.
Could you remind us of procedure, please, Mayor? So if this fails, then we.
If
are
this
back to-
fails, then we will go back to the 85 million and
Thank you.
ultimately back to the main motion.
Thank you.
So the substitute motion is to amend the main motion to change the $100 million not to exceed figure to $110 million. So a yes vote would mean you are supportive of capping the amount at $110 million for the architect to design for. Understood? All right, all those in favor of the substitute motion to increase the not to exceed figure to $110 million signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed?
No.
Nay.
All right, that motion fails. We'll go back to the original amendment of 85 million for the cap as instead of 110 million, or I'm sorry, 100 million. So voting in favor of this motion will change that not to exceed figure from $100 million to $85 million. This is the motion by Alder Madden, seconded by Alder Myers. All those in favor of the amendment to $85 million for the not to exceed figure signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
No.
Nay. Roll
We
call.
need- Do we need a
Request
roll
the yeas
call
and
vote?
nays. I request the yeas and nays for the record.
Yes,
Madam Mayor.
we are doing the roll call.
No.
Yes.
No.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Brian, Bill?
Fails 2-6.
It fails.
So you had 2 yeses and 6 nos.
No, there was
Three.
three.
Three
Three,
yes.
three,
Three.
three and five.
Let's try again.
No.
Yes.
No.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
So it fails 5-3. Is that confirmed?
Yep.
Thank you. All right. Alder Myers?
I move to amend the main motion to include an advisory referendum to take place concurrent with the November general election in 2026.
We have a motion to amend the main motion to include a referendum. Is there a second? Motion dies for lack of a second. Moving back to the main motion. Unamended. And the motion is to direct staff to develop an RFP process to select an architect for a project not to exceed $100 million for the community campus project. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
No.
All right. motion-
Request the yeas and nays.
Okay, I'll do a roll call vote. Schaefer,
Yes.
Madden,
Yes.
Baines,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Myers,
No.
Opitz,
Yes.
Lorman.
Can I change my vote?
Well, you're voting no.
Yes.
You're changing your vote to yes, just for the record. Okay. Crow,
Yes.
Motion passes 7-1. Right. Thank you. Moving on to ordinances. First reading, we have 5. The L&O committee has been really excelling these last couple of meetings. First one is ordinance to amend section 212, paragraph 2, related to the appointment of members of the Community Development Authority.
This is Madden. I move approval of the ordinance to amend section 2.12 related to the appointment of members of the Community Development Authority.
Thorman will second that.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Is this the first reading only?
This is the first reading.
Okay, Alder Myers.
Just as a procedural note, the L&O committee discussed changes to commission membership. We felt that this wasn't a significant enough change to a committee membership to warrant consulting that committee. However, for more drastic changes to committee membership, we do plan on consulting with the pertinent committees.
Thank you for that clarification. Okay, there is no further discussion. All those in favor of approving the ordinance to amend section 2.12, paragraph 2 related to the appointment of members of the Community Development Authority, first reading, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to number 2, ordinance to create section 2.36 Sexual Offender Residency Appeal Board and create section 16.08 Sexual Offender Residency Restrictions. Is there a motion?
Myers, I move to suspend the rules.
Madden will second.
All right, we've had a motion and a second to suspend the rules to go to the second reading. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is there discussion? I have discussion. I would like to relay that Chief Thompson specifically asked me if this would go to a second reading tonight. I told him I was not sure, but he did have some things he wanted to look over.
Okay.
Okay.
So
I'll
we
with-
will vote on it, but please be mindful of the chief's request.
I was unaware of
I-
the chief's request. It was not made to.
Sorry, but yeah.
Yeah, it was not made to L&O.
Okay.
Um,
So all those in favor of suspending the rules signify by saying aye. Those opposed?
No.
No.
All right, thank you. And going to the first reading now, do we have a motion to approve this ordinance to create section 2.36 and section 16.08?
Myers, move approval.
Madden will second.
All right. Discussion. Yes, Alder Myers.
Yeah, so Chief Thompson hadn't told us of
Yeah.
of that desire during the committee meeting or subsequent to it. So we were under the impression that we'd had full department feedback on this.
Understood, understood. Any other discussion? I had a couple of questions. One is, what about offenders, excuse me, who live in senior living facilities, including memory care, where they truly are confined? If you're in memory care, chances are you're in a building that is locked. At least that's my experience with my mother having been in there. And so that struck me as maybe an exception that could be added because that offender would not really have opportunity to leave. And then the other question I had for members' consideration is just the idea of what happens if there is someone who needs treatment at a facility and they're there for 8 days and later in that same calendar year, they need to go back for treatment and they wish to go to the same facility that they had been at. Maybe that's the one that's in their insurance plan and they go back. Does our creation of this ordinance mean that they would have to leave after 6 days of treatment, even if they required more? Alder Myers.
Mayor Heniro, the behavioral health facility in this city is directly across the street from a daycare. I would be very concerned about placing an exception there, just because of that known issue.
So the answer to my question would be yes. We would expect someone to leave treatment after 6 days, even if their medical providers thought they needed more time.
We would want them to get that treatment at Oshkosh.
Okay. And may I ask, what is the composition of the appeals board? I didn't see anything related to that. And don't we need to create the appeals board prior to enacting this ordinance, since appeals under this ordinance would have to go to that board? Do we have a board?
The first section of
Mhm.
this ordinance.
Oh, creates the,
Yep, 3 citizens and 1 alternate. For initial appointments to the board, the mayor shall appoint 1 member and the alternate to 1-year term and the other 2 members to a 2-year term.
I see that now. Okay, well, I guess we have time. As the person who's making the recommendations for appointments, my concern simply is that, an appeal may be forthcoming before we even stand up the board. I don't know if there's a way to avoid that.
Well, we could consider, the late effective date, becomes effective. Tie it to,
Tie it to-
filling of the appeal board.
Okay. And I would request that the wording be changed from 3 citizens to 3 members of the public.
I'm comfortable with that.
No objection.
No objection.
Okay, all right, so recognize, did you have a?
No, just given the changes you've requested, do we need to defer this?
I think voting on the first reading is fine, and that'll give Chief Thompson a chance to come back with, or let Eleanor know about the concerns or the questions he had. And the wording from citizens to members of the public is a fairly simple change. Okay, so all those in favor of approving the ordinance to create section 2.36 Sexual Offender Residency Appeal Board and create section 1608 Sexual Offender Residency Restrictions signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to ordinance to amend section 8.10(1)J and K related to address number requirements.
Mrs. Madden, I'll move approval of the ordinance to amend section 8.10 J and K related to address number requirements.
Is there a second?
Myers, second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the ordinance to amend section 8.101J and K related to address number requirements signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to ordinance to amend section 7.053C to change the term of direct seller's registration.
Mrs. Madden, I move approval of the ordinance to amend section 7.053C to change the term of direct seller's registration.
Myers, second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to our last ordinance, still the first reading, ordinance to amend section 1.04A3 related to staffing of the License and Ordinance Committee.
Mrs. Madden, I move we suspend the rules.
Myers, second.
All right, we have a motion to suspend the rules. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion to suspend the rules and go straight to the second reading for this ordinance signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. All right, this will be the second reading of the ordinance to amend section 1.04A3 related to staffing of the License and Ordinance Committee. Is there a motion?
Mrs. Madden, I move approval of the ordinance to amend section 1.04A3 related to the staffing of the License and Ordinance Committee.
Myers, second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
A little bit.
Go ahead.
Just because I know I typically, again, do not suspend the rules for things unless I think they're important. This is how the LNO committee, quite frankly, has been staffed since the very beginning, and now the ordinance just reflects what the staffing will be at our next meeting.
So it's sort of ratifying something that's already been.
Yes.
Any other, Alder Crow?
I guess I wasn't clear why the tourism director is on L&O.
So she will often provide in reports on events in particular that
Oh,
this,
okay.
that the tourism department has
Okay.
had a hand in.
And I had a question related to that, and that is, do the staff designated by the chief of police and the tourism director need to attend each meeting, or are they only there when their items are on the agenda?
They do not. It's only when their items are on the agenda, and we leave that to the very capable hands of our city clerk and our chief of police to determine whether or not that is appropriate to have that person on the committee with Paul.
Okay, and when their items are on the agenda, are those placed at the beginning of the agenda so that they're free to go?
Well,
And I guess I'll rephrase that and say,
Well-
can they be?
you know, honestly, it's a little difficult to arrange the L&O meeting that way just because there's, you know, special events permits that tourism has to come in on.
Okay.
And then ordinance changes that sometimes tourism, sometimes the city staff, sometimes the police want to weigh in on, sometimes the police want to weigh on special events
special
permits
events, okay.
because of the size of the thing. So
All
I
right.
think, although we can try to do that certainly, and I'll review that, but if we can, I think that is difficult and that's why.
Sure. Okay, Alder Myers.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and Kim, you can totally correct me if I'm wrong on this. I can't remember a single time except for one license denial that I don't think ended up being a denial because it was mooted. I can't remember a single time other than that where if either tourism or the police weighed in on an agenda item, we didn't also ask either tourism or the police if they were present, because it's just so frequent
Mhm.
that we do need the perspective of both, even for what would appear to others on who are not on the committee to be minor changes to annual events. We've made it the committee practice to consult both departments on those operationally.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the ordinance to amend section 1.04A3 related to staffing of the License and Ordinance Committee, and this is the second reading, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right, moving on to recommendations and proposals. Feedback and approval of the Century Avenue Road Diet Scope of Services.
I'd love to have the chance for this one. May I, Mayor?
Yes.
So the Ped Bike Transit Committee reviewed this at their meeting on May 7th, made a couple minor suggestions. Staff updated that. It went to the Finance and Personnel meeting tonight, so I would like to move the authorize the release of the RFP scope of services, to approve the scope of services and authorize the release of the RFP, I think is the motion I need to make. Is that right?
Okay, so approve the scope of services and release the
Of the RFP, yep.
RFP. That is the motion by Alder Opitz. Is there a second?
This is Alder Crowe, I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to.
And if I may
approve-
add, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I'm just repeating it. We have a motion and a second to approve the Century Avenue Road Diet Scope of Services and release the RFP. Discussion. Alder
Yep,
Opitz,
I'm
it's
sorry
your
about that.
motion.
So I looked at the traffic counts. We all know there's a lot of traffic on Century Avenue. And I looked at the traffic count data that the DOT maintains and compared it with Odana Road, which recently went through something similar a couple of years ago. We are reasonably close to that. We are a little over, but I'm very hopeful that we will have a consultant who can help us sort through this and determine whether this is feasible. There are potential issues with jurisdictional transfer requirements if that turns out to be the case from the highway commissioner, but I think it's important that we have the data and know what our options are to adhere to our complete streets policy.
Thank
So
you.
I very much appreciate that staff put this together. Thank you.
Alder Lorman and then Alder Myers.
Yeah, I have a question. Quite a bit of this is in District 7. What does it mean where the city would require, I guess the county would require the city to take over all maintenance responsibilities of the roadway? So I mean, hypothetically speaking, we do a road diet study, okay, good stuff come out of it, we like it. And we say, okay, let's implement it. And the county says, well, yeah, go ahead, but that's not the way we would redo Century Avenue. So then moving forward, we are responsible for the maintenance of the whole of Century Avenue from end to end.
That's how I read it.
Abby.
Yeah, that seems like, whoa.
The Dane County Highway Commissioner's perspective was that any areas that are improved to what they would consider to be more of an urban cross-section, which the road diet, he said, would meet that criteria, that section, and they would go from one intersection to the next, would now become the city's responsibility, full responsibility for maintenance. Previously, the city took a jurisdictional transfer of University Avenue when that road was redone, but prior to the transfer, there was a shared agreement for reconstruction of the road. So when it was handed over to the city, it was a brand new road. I have reached out to the Dane County Highway Commissioner to see if he'd be willing to share with me if Dane County's perspective would be that they would help with the improvement cost, but he has not responded to that.
So that's fascinating. I'm just kind of a little concerned because there's another bridge on Century Avenue. So the city would have to replace that bridge.
That bridge, are you talking about the bridge around Dewey Court?
Yeah, that creek,
Okay.
over the creek, yep.
That would be outside of the area that we're discussing. So that would be outside of the scope of the road diet. The road diet would be from Branch Street west to Parmenter Street.
Oh, so it wouldn't be
That would
east.
be, yeah, it wouldn't go east of Allen Boulevard.
I wouldn't go east of
A branch.
Branch.
Yeah.
Right, of Branch, yes.
Wouldn't go east of Branch, gotcha. So,
Good. Alder Myers and then Alder Crow.
thank you.
So there are a handful of driveways excluded from this scope that I think we would want to also include. There is the Burger King driveway just before the intersection at Parmenter and Century.
Okay.
I understand why it is very close to the intersection, but because it is very close to the intersection, it's already presented with certain unique challenges. There's also some through traffic in that driveway that goes around the Parmenter. They're not supposed to, but they're linked, and I assure you, drivers do it. You bypass the intersection by driving through the Burger King parking lot into the gas station parking lot, and then so I would want to include that driveway. I'd also just to the point of bridges that we would then have to maintain, the bridge that crosses the Pheasant Branch Creek, which is currently structurally deficient and in need of replacement, would come under city jurisdiction if I'm understanding the scope of this road diet correctly. Now, of course, we're replacing that next year, but then 35 years hence, and for all subsequent maintenance, that bridge would be a City of Middleton responsibility under this scope, just for my colleagues' awareness. The driveway into the 1847 at Stamhouse, but also Interlock and Consignment Store, strip mall area, I'd want to include that driveway. That driveway is kind of a problem sometimes, both entering and exiting. It's not very well designed to begin with. So I'd suggest to my colleagues, especially since the consignment store there actually does a bit of a booming business, as Abby, you probably know, given your hobbies, does a bit of a booming business on a very specific concentrated set of hours. But for my colleagues who are unaware, people who are really into picking and estate sales fill up that place about starting on Friday and going through Sunday, that parking lot will occasionally be full, especially if RTC has some sort of estate sale event that weekend.
I've actually never been there, but thanks for the recommendation.
They have a great selection. So I'd want to see that driveway included in the scope here. Because what I want us to get out of this consulting report is something that will give us, or this road diet study, that will give us a full and complete understanding of what we are taking on if we do this, and the things that will need to happen in order to make it happen. So those driveways I view as sort of mandatory inclusions, and I do want us to be mindful of the bridge.
Okay. Alder Crow.
Yeah, my question was actually about the bridge and the reconstruction. Does this affect, that's basically all of that gets done before we would decide on anything?
the
Or-
bridge
And
is-
how would the bridge reconstruction fit in with any kind of scope of what we might want to change it afterwards?
Yes, so the bridge is already designed.
Yeah.
That's moving ahead and that's happening in 2027. This study is being done in advance of a planned resurfacing, which right now is being shown in Dane County's budget as 2029. And I think that they kind of wanted to offset that from the bridge as well as the city's Century and Allen intersection project that was done last summer. So the 2029 timeline is not firm because it's not yet fully in the budget. But we want to get the scope of work and get the study for the Century Road Diet before they would plan the 2029 resurfacing project, because that's the project that we're trying to align with. I can't say with certainty that the bridge would become the city's responsibility, but I think just thinking about that as a worst case scenario is a practical way to think about it, because it is possible. They did say that when they look at doing a jurisdictional transfer, it is intersection to intersection, and they would want to terminate it at a point that makes sense. So they weren't specific that it would, whether or not it would be before or after the bridge. One thing that the PedBike Transit Committee wanted us to look at is whether the study could include an opportunity for phasing so that it wouldn't have to be the entire stretch. If maybe there's a section that is more easy to implement right away, that maybe there could be an opportunity for only doing a section of the roadway. So that's something that we've tried to include in the scope of work as a possibility for whatever consultant we end up working with, that we could phase. I think you had one more question, but please.
No,
remember
it
what
was mostly the bridge and how that would be kind of phased in.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Old
I
Creek,
think,
Old Creek Road would be another intersection maybe to start from, since some of the bridge work kind of goes up the hill toward Old Creek Road, I believe.
yeah, I think the scope as we've written it right now, and we kind of estimated what the costs would be, and we have a budget of 40,000. So we don't know whether we're going to get a really good responsive proposal for the entire segment, but we hope we can for that budgeted amount. But it's Parmenter to Branch. It's possible that when we look at how the bridge is designed and the number of lanes, that there might have to be zippering of traffic west of the bridge, and maybe it makes sense for there to be another intersection defined. So maybe it doesn't end up being that full section of roadway. We just don't know until we have some traffic engineers start to look into it. I think it's a bullet point list within the RFP where we were calling out certain intersections. We went through and named the intersections that we wanted to make sure that they were specifically looking at, but the scope would actually consider all the driveways and all the, every obstacle along that path. we tried to highlight the intersections, and then Alder Opitz during the Ped Bike Transit Committee meeting noted that a couple of the driveways kind of look like streets or function more like streets, the Middleton Glen and the one into Metro Market, which is why we added those two to the list as well.
Alder Miners.
In that case, I do, I'm willing to take off potentially some of the driveways and not call them out if they are going to be included. But if we're looking at driveways that can potentially function as streets, then we really do need to include the one on Century just before Parmenter, because it can function as a through street.
Okay.
The Burger King.
I have seen that too.
It's about a half mile from my house, so I walk there all the time.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Abby. All right, then all those in favor of approving the Century Avenue Road Diet Scope of Services and releasing the RFP signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Madam Mayor, was that including that one intersection at the Burger King?
Is that not already
Specifically.
included?
No, it's not specifically listed.
I mean, that was, I would accept that as a friendly amendment if, I know we just kind of voted, but that's, I think that's fine. I certainly had no objection to that as the maker of the motion, but how do you want to handle that?
I thought staff said that all the driveways, all the obstacles were included in the scope.
That would imply a Burger King is.
That would imply that the Burger King intersection or
Yes, we only specifically called out two driveways that Alder Opitz noted during the Ped Bike Transit Committee meeting look like and function more like streets. And Alder Myers was saying that the Burger King driveway should be added because it also can function as a cut through street. And we can add that to the list.
Okay, then aye.
Fair enough.
Okay. Okay, moving on to referrals. We have the referral of Pheasant Branch Road Complete Street Concept, and Alder Opitz brings this, and I will turn it over to Alder Opitz to explain, including who
sure.
are we referring this to?
Thank you. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go spend much time on this, but I just wanted to highlight the excellent work that our planning and community development staff have been doing. Scott Heacock and Daphne Shu on the active transportation plan. It's been underway. They've been working hard on it for over a year now. And there's a appendix that lists the missing link. It's Appendix A that lists various streets like Pleasant View Road, University Avenue, Century Avenue, Parmenter Street, etc. And there's also a map in the draft plan called the Pedestrian Network Map that shows the need for pedestrian accommodations along Pheasant Branch Road as being a medium priority. And I guess the reason I wanted to bring this to your attention and to request this referral is because we all know that Pheasant Branch Road is an unsafe, it's not safe for walking or biking. It's not a complete street. We know that adding a continuous pedestrian facility along that road would be very expensive and significantly impact the environment. This is why the City Council about 20 years ago adopted a policy not to widen Pheasant Branch Road. Obviously, a policy like that can change with new circumstances. So we also know that there's a fairly level unpaved path that parallels Pheasant Branch Road connecting the northern neighborhoods and the Graber Greenway path with Branch Street. And that trail, by the way, largely follows a sanitary sewer interceptor. So I think in the interest of our complete streets policy and the requests that as I campaigned and heard from my future and now current constituents, including recently, there's a lot of concern that as we continue growing to the north, that pedestrian safety is going to become an increasing, it's an issue now and it's going to only get worse. And so what I'm asking for simply tonight is a referral to the Conservancy Lands Committee, is it?
Committee and the Public Works Committee at a minimum. I'm happy to entertain others as well. But I would like for them to weigh in from their perspectives, their policy perspectives on this matter. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I wanted them to weigh in, but also we're going to have public input sessions coming up. And I wanted this to be transparent and fully discussed in the public sphere in the context of this active transportation plan.
So I'm going to second.
Oh, I'm
Mark's
sorry.
Motion.
Okay, I didn't mean to speak to it without making.
I did not
Yeah.
hear a motion
But
quite yet.
I
and
made,
would
so I'm
ask-
making a motion.
I would ask a question first,
Yeah,
and that is,
sure.
has Ped Bike and Transit seen this?
So I'm happy to have it go back there.
So they have seen it.
They did look at it. There was concern from that committee, which I have recently joined, that there is that they've made enough progress on the plan and that I think there was some reluctance to, and there was a feeling that there was some additional work with there's an accessibility study that's being done. Is that?
Mhm.
it?
My point in asking, if I may, is
yeah.
just simply to know whether you want to include Ped Bike and
I-
Transit in the referral.
I'm happy to refer it back to them. They
Okay,
did,
so
yeah. So
let's hear
my
your-
motion is to refer this matter, I wanted to give a little context before I made the motion, but the motion is to refer this matter to Conservancy Lands Commission and the Public Works Committee and the Ped Bike Transit Committee. I'm welcome to, they're going to be discussing this anyway again, but if we can make that formal referral, that's fine with me.
So we have a motion to
Yep.
refer the Pheasant Branch Road Complete Street Concept to the Conservancy Lands Committee,
Yeah.
Public Works Committee, and Ped Bike and Transit Committee.
Myers, I'll second that.
Thank you.
And if I may add one more thing, Mayor?
Sure.
So I want to emphasize that the biggest concern I've heard about this idea is that the city takes on new projects, in this case trails, and that we don't have additional resources, financial or staff resources to maintain our trails. And so that is the biggest challenge that we face, just like we do in any growing cities, to keep up with the needs of the community and expect to have the same resource allocation. It just doesn't work well. But that's a funding issue for the future. We're not saying build this path. What I'd like to do is have the active transportation plan indicate that this is the way to, a way to, probably the best way to address the corridor to make it a complete streets corridor.
Thank you. Alder Myers.
So, colleagues, you all know just how much I hate spending money. I think that I've made that abundantly clear on my time in council. That I do always ask myself before I allocate a public dollar, is there a better way to spend this? And do I absolutely have to? The reality is that I think we do. Kim, Dave, Lisa, you've all had the misfortune of serving with me at one point or another on Public Works together. And the one road out of all of the roads that has continually come up as a not if but when road in this city is Pheasant Branch Road. I don't want to have the when happen. And so I want us to take this as a first step to making sure that it never does.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of referring the Pheasant Branch Road Complete Street Concept to the Conservancy Lands Committee, Public Works Committee, and Ped Bike and Transit Committee signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Moving on to resolutions, we have three. First one, Resolution 2026-17, authorizing the issuance and establishing the parameters for the sale of not to exceed $4,490,000 in general obligation promissory notes, signified by, oh, I'm sorry.
Getting late. Just-
Do we have a motion?
This is Alder Crowe. I'll make the motion to authorize the issuance and establishing parameters as outlined in the Eller's report for the sale of not to exceed $4,490,000 in general obligation promissory notes.
Lorman will second that.
Thank you both. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving Resolution 2026-17, authorizing the issuance and establishing the parameters for the sale of not to exceed $4,490,000 in general obligation promissory notes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next resolution, 2026-18, supporting and approving City of Middleton's application to the U.S. Department of Transportation for a Safe Streets and Roads for All Planning and Demonstration Grant. Is there a motion?
Myers, on behalf of Public Works, move approval of Resolution 2026-18, supporting and approving City of Middleton's application to the U.S. Department of Transportation, USDOT, for a Safe Streets and Roads for All SS4A Planning and Demonstration Grant.
Is there a second?
Schaefer will second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Alder Myers.
For my colleagues who are on the Finance and Personnel Committee, this was made possible by Public Works structuring our pedestrian safety grants or our pedestrian safety and bicycle safety line item in a very specific way. We will be doing that going forward in future budget years in order to ensure that this and similar grants are something that we can pursue. The 80-20 matching funds that we're able to achieve here make things like what's outlined in our application for this grant possible, but also hopefully in future years, projects that are more expensive and outside the city's normal scope of what we can afford, like my colleague Alder Opitz's proposal on PBR.
Okay. Any other discussion? Other than noting that my name is misspelled.
Again.
Okay. All those in favor of approving Resolution 2026-18, supporting and approving City of Middleton's application to the U.S. Department of Transportation for a Safe Streets and Roads for All Planning and Demonstration Grant, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Our last resolution is 2026-19, supporting a comprehensive and sustainable transportation funding system. Is there a motion?
Lorman will make that motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Madden second.
Thank you. Madden seconds. Discussion. I will note that I agreed to include this item on the agenda. This comes to us from the League of Wisconsin Municipalities. Had I been involved in drafting it, I would have emphasized the need to fund public transportation and pedestrian and bike infrastructure, calling those out. I believe we can choose to interpret local transportation program as including these items. So, okay. All right, if there's no discussion, then all those in favor of approving Resolution 2026-19, supporting a comprehensive and sustainable transportation funding system, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to committee appointments. Public appointments to committees, commissions, and boards. Is there a motion?
This is Nelson. I will move approval of the appointees to the committees, commissions, and boards.
Thank you. Is there a
Myers second.
Myers seconds. All right. Any discussion? Alder Myers.
I was just going to say that I was very excited to see Laura Buckholz's name as an appointee to the Plan Commission. So I'm looking forward to seeing her continue her incredibly generous volunteering for our city on that body.
I will relay your kind remarks to Laura. Yes, Alder Lorman.
Yeah, I was not made aware of the appointment for the Airport Commission. Does this person meet the ordinance requirements?
I believe his application is in the packet and.
I don't see it.
It's not there.
All right, it was requested that the.
I see. Okay, Dave, did you go through on the specific items instead of the overall full packet?
I couldn't get it open. Okay. That's fine. I trust you.
Yes, he is not yet a pilot. His, I would have brought my notes on him specifically. His father, well, I will relay to you through email, Alder Borman, his credentials, but yes, he lives in District 5. He appreciates being able to watch the planes coming in. He and his sister are both interested in becoming pilots. They just have not started yet. I believe he'll be a good addition to the committee, the commission.
Did you have a second? I'm not sure you did. I'll second.
Yes,
Oh, you did.
Nelson moved, Myers
Oh,
seconded.
okay, sorry.
And I'm looking to see if I can find his application to allay any concerns.
I just would appreciate that, as chair of airport commission, I would get maybe advance notice and an opportunity to discuss, introduce, talk to the person, talk to you.
I
At least that's been protocol in the past on committee and commission appointments.
Has that been the protocol in the past?
It's varied by administrations. So each mayor has made the determination of how they want to handle the process.
All right. That is,
As long as you're consistent, if that's been the case for all
I have not,
appointments.
I have not notified any other chairs of potential appointments.
Okay.
And I regret that I don't know why the applications were not included in the packet.
I saw them at one point. Now I don't. So
Yeah, I don't know.
That's not in there.
Looking through.
I'm excited to have another airport neighbor from District 5 on the commission. I think it's important that the people most immediately impacted have a voice as well. That's why we've traditionally appointed the alder representing District 5.
Yep.
In addition to an alder for the city. So
Is there any other discussion? I can look up. Let's see. Else. He says, I am an unapologetic av geek who can't get enough of airplanes, airports, pretty much anything with an air prefix. My dad is a career pilot and leader in business aviation safety, so I have been knee-deep in all things aviation since birth, though professionally I am a tech guy. He specifically talked to me about how he, because of his father's role, had the opportunity to go to testing facilities and see what is done to, for example, wings on jets to make sure that they will not break off in bad turbulence. All right, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the public appointments to committees, commissions, and boards signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. And members, if you have ideas for people in your districts who could fill any of the existing vacancies, please ask them to submit an application. We have updated our application so that it now sends a confirmation when you apply. And that confirmation includes a link to schedule an appointment with me. And I forgot that we made that change. And I was wondering, how are these people how are they already scheduling appointments when I didn't reach out to them to say, hey, thanks for your application, please schedule an appointment. So technology. And we're also thinking about improving our technology for managing all these appointments. Okay, moving on, we do not have to address the appointment of a community development authority representative. The ordinance has not yet changed. We still do have vacancies, so that is one that I would ask members, if you know someone, please refer them to me. And then moving on to discussion. We have first discussion and potential action on the 2026 Committee of the Whole meeting calendar. Alder Nelson, that's you.
Yes, I've been working with Administrator Gatto on putting together a calendar for the entire year. And we still have specific dates to be determined, but most all of the days we will hope to have on Friday afternoons from like noon to 3. And so we're hoping that if we can give you guys enough heads up that this is something that we can all make. I believe usually lunch is served when we do something like this.
Should that second one July or there's 2 Junes and no July?
It is intended to be June.
Yeah, the first one is a dinner meeting to thank everybody who has volunteered to be on a committee, which I think is a really fantastic idea.
Yep.
And it will give us an opportunity to give them a little bit of framework of what we expect. And some ground rules on ethics, etc.
Alder Open?
Yes, thank you. I would simply caution and maybe express some concern if all the meetings are scheduled on a weekday. I know a number of people on this body work, have regular jobs. And also the public, if they are interested in attending, it might be harder for them to attend if they wanted to learn more about TIF and TID, for example. So
appreciate that.
maybe instead of having them all on a Friday afternoon, maybe there's some evening, or I know Saturdays are unpopular, but we have done committee of the holes on Saturday mornings before. But maybe mixing it up so that they're not all the same time or the same day of the week is something to consider.
I think in our experience, the Fridays are the least likely to overlap with other committee meetings, especially if we do decide to go with an evening. And Saturdays, I just really am reluctant to have city staff come in on a Saturday.
Understood.
And I can appreciate, I have a day job as well. I try to run my own business, so these I think are good workshops, things we need to learn about, and I think it will just make our meetings more efficient when we have these offered.
Alder Myers?
So I'm not able in the packet to see the list of dates. Oh, it's up on the screen. Okay. So I have a handful of somewhat related concerns about the ability of individuals to participate in these meetings. First is that for the dates in general, please check them against the holidays for Jewish members of the council if we're selecting potential dates, because if you ask me to choose between a committee of the whole meeting and say, I'm not sure which day Yom Kippur falls on this year, but it would be unreasonable of me to ask any of you to come to a meeting on Christmas. And I just want to make sure that when we're
Believe that we would
selecting,
certainly honor
And-
that, and when we
and-
look at a calendar, we can see that. I mean, I think we won't.
I'm asking, I'm not saying that you would, Katie. I'm saying that by accident, I have noticed, all right, Alder Nelson, I have noticed by accident, a number of city meetings have been scheduled on significant Jewish holidays in the past, and I have noticed and had to reach out to Brian on a fairly urgent basis to ensure that David and I were able to attend. So I am asking now, before we have set the dates in stone, to make sure that we check against the calendar. If that is not a priority for you, then
Alder Myers, that is inappropriate. Alder Nelson had already indicated her willingness and embrace of our policy on avoiding holidays. Your tone, your words are out of order.
Then
Your,
in the
your
intro, then
your point is made. Does anyone else want to weigh in on the?
I will withdraw them, but I do want the record to reflect that city meetings have been scheduled on significant Jewish holidays in the past, and that is why I am bringing this up.
I appreciate that. Please let the record reflect that in the minutes. Any other comments on the dates? Yes, Alderman.
Yeah, I want to echo Alder Opus's comments about the potentiality of potentiality, that word. Sorry, it's getting late. The potential of having meetings that are either in the evenings or on a Saturday morning. It's, if I know well enough in advance, it's not a significant impact potentially to my schedule, but it is to my patients. Right, and so having other options instead of having to reserve, one Friday for nearly every month is an ask.
I think being able to mix up the dates to accommodate, so that, let's say, someone doesn't have to miss all of them, but, right. Would the members feel more comfortable having some of these fall over like a dinner hour, have a working dinner instead of a working lunch?
I would be fine with that.
Or if we have a short council meeting agenda, that might be a way to sneak one of the topics on too.
If
going
we
to
have a
Mount
short,
Washington.
so far, we're not,
Not working.
yeah, the hazing of Alder Baines
Alder
continues.
oh, we just
My
begun.
next screenplay,
Yeah.
hazing of Alder Baines. Alder Schaefer and then Madden.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a good idea, but I thought we were thinking about every 2 months or something. This is almost like a 50% increase in the workload for being on council. And being on plan commission, suddenly that means there's gonna be 5 nights, 5 big meetings every single month,
I totally appreciate that.
so just
I
a general
think,
comment.
I guess, I am working with Mayor Jay and her request that we get these topics covered and that we do them more consistently. And I'm completely happy to do evenings if we can do a dinner. It might just mean that a committee meeting gets canceled or pushed off for another day.
Or the idea, like I'm looking at constituent communications, that seems like an important topic and I do like the idea of following, I'm always looking to other municipalities to see what they do. I know Sun Prairie tries to hold a committee of the whole meeting in conjunction with every council meeting. I'm not suggesting we do that, but I do like the idea of striving to have a short council meeting someday. And making it long again by piggybacking on a committee of the whole meeting. So, and I would be comfortable turning this meeting schedule into something that extends into January through April of 2027, because that is still part of this council's term.
Oh, to give a little more time in between each.
Yep. So,
yeah.
so possibly bumping, moving these around. It makes sense to have the parliamentary procedure and maybe the constituent communications, bring those up to the front since that affects our operations. Maybe do that one at a time that's workable for most of the members. And then we can spread out some of the others. I'm sure the TIF and TID education is going to be important when we are about to approve the new TIDs. So. Alder Lorman?
Yeah, just want to, so I guess my question is, how will we work enough time to talk about our community campus, like into this? Seemed like committee of the whole meetings were sort of for discussion of that, or no? Because this is now a reality for us, this will just be baked into our common council meetings?
That is an excellent question.
Okay.
Administrator Gatto.
Yeah, so assuming moving forward with the request for proposal process, once that's underway and you have, an architect selected, in the next, I don't want to give you a time frame, but let's say next 3 to 6 months, something like that. then there would be kind of continual updates on that baked in to the council meeting. You wouldn't necessarily have to have a separate committee of the whole, but we can cross that bridge as we've got an architect on board and know kind of the scope of that.
Great. Yep. I'm good then.
So what if I work with Brian, Administrator Gatto, on kind of switching up the days of the week, and maybe we can do some sort of a doodle poll where we can find a couple times that might be a little more doable. Are there any committee meetings on Wednesday evenings?
Conservancy
There-
lands.
Yeah.
Landmarks.
Okay.
And WRMC.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's no like specific date usually, except usually just Friday.
And just from a musician standpoint, I will miss most.
You got
Fridays if
gigs,
you do
yeah.
that. My evenings are pretty eaten up most evenings.
Okay.
But that's okay. As
Yeah,
long as it's
we
not
have-
expected, every one of us can be considered, you know. Yeah.
Administrator Gatto, got the mic raised.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just doing some math in my head. It's the months, and I hate to even say this because those are the best months of the year. The months in which you have the 5 weeks in them, which afford a week where there typically is less city meetings. There might be a Wednesday. It doesn't math out exactly as every other month, but every couple of months, there's a month that has the 5th week in it where you could probably pick up a Wednesday night where there isn't another committee meeting that conflicts with it. So we can take a look at that.
I like the fifth night or fifth.
I don't,
week with
and
Wednesday,
I'll be
not a
honest, for
Tuesday.
staff, I don't, because I mean, then
I was
now
gonna
we're
say,
asking
no.
staff to come back on a week when they don't typically have meetings, so I just, we got to think through all that as we're
Yes.
trying to schedule this.
End of September is good.
Okay, Alder Myers.
Dave and I do want to flag for people that on Friday nights, Shabbat dinner is a pretty regular thing in the Jewish community. So
So Fridays for lunch, maybe Thursdays, not Ped Bike and Transit. Yeah. Sleepover. All nighter.
Right, so anyway, you're getting the idea of the consistency that we're looking for and the topics that we're hoping to cover.
Yes. And I very much appreciate that the strategic plan is in that list because it's been 3 years now since since council established what the priorities would be. I don't know if at the time we thought it was going to be priorities for the next 3 years, but I'm pleased that we can cross some of those off the list. Okay. So Council President Nelson will take this back and, yes, Alder Baines.
Yeah, well, while we're on the subject of the hazing of Alder Baines, yeah, just as a heads up, I won't be able to, and I believe I put this in the email, I won't be able to make the one on June 8th.
June 8th, yes.
Because of business travel.
Yep. Thank you for that. And that is actually our next agenda item. Just an update and very brief discussion. So this was something that, we haven't done this. I think the last time I recall there being a committee orientation of any kind as a group was when we still did the bus rides. That was in 2022. I don't know if Alder Crow remembers going on that, but I did. And so this is something I feel is really important since people are volunteering so much of their time. I would love to have as many council members attend this as possible. The idea is to have invitations have gone out. It's for a Monday night. It's in the courtroom. We'll have tables set up and food from Taza. Folks can come in. We will greet them and direct them. People grab their food, sit at a table with their other committee members so that they can make that face-to-face connection. It's open to returning committee members and new people. So, we'll have a mix, and the idea is simply just to I'll make some opening remarks, thank everyone for their service to the city, explain why we have committees. There's an excellent piece from the League of Wisconsin Municipalities on this topic, which I've shared before. We'll have the committee handbook available for people too. And then Council President Nelson will say a few words about best practices, do's and don'ts. Don't reply to all the things that we're still learning after all these years. And then Administrator Gatto will walk through not the entire handbook, but he'll call out choice parts of it just to, get everybody on the same page. I think this will be good for everybody, including experienced committee members, because I guarantee not everybody has read the volunteer handbook. And then the rest of the evening will be time for the staff that are available, and this isn't required but encouraged, to sit with their committees and just spark some discussion about getting to know each other and, answering questions that people might have about what to expect from their service on a committee. We won't be conducting business. But I think especially for committees like Ped Bike and Transit and Sustainability that meet completely on Zoom, I think this will be a great opportunity to get to meet people face to face. And I think it'll be a welcome opportunity for us to thank people for what they do for our city. And I hope you'll all be able to attend. Okay. The last item is updates on committees, commissions, and boards by council members and the mayor. Does anybody have anything that is burning important? Gotta cover it tonight. Oh, Alder Schaefer and Alder Opitz.
Just quick, but sustainability went over the active transportation plan. Got good results on that. But we're also very clearly, the message has gotten through that we need to do the new 3-year strategic plan.
Oh, good.
So that's in the works.
Thank you.
And the-
That was burning important. Thank you. Alder Opitz.
Very quickly, Bike Week is May 31st through June 7th. And I appreciate that there's a number of, most of the activities are listed on the city's website, but there's one missing. And I would ask that we add Bike Rodeo, the Bike Rodeo on June 6th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And specifically that also, I want people to know that we still have, by my count before the meeting, 29 volunteer shifts available on Sign Up Genius. So I would encourage my colleagues and people in the community to volunteer for a shift for the Bike Rodeo.
Yes, and maybe we can send out that link. I have it. I'm happy to share it. I signed up to do the teach kids how to stop and look both ways before emerging from a driveway or at an intersection. And I chose that one because one of my neighbors recently asked me, is there any like safety training for kids? Because she had witnessed her son ride out into the street and had to teach him not to do that. So yes, exactly. Right. Alder Myers.
The Public Works Committee will be discussing a matter regarding our ability to retain staff, what we refer to finance and personnel, and to Common Council is going to be very urgent. And I don't think I can say more without violating notice requirements.
Thank you. Alder Nelson and then Alder Borman.
Arts Committee had the art walk on Saturday. It was a humongous success, over 70 artists. It was really hot, but like the best day of the weekend. I mean, we had hail and sirens the next day.
Yeah.
But really successful. The bubble party was a hoot. And then CDA, we have a farmer's market every Tuesday starting today and from 2 to 7. And then we have the night market starting on Thursday nights.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks. I'm new to Pleasant View Golf Course and just wanted to pass on that one of their longtime members, he was there for 15 years. So he's stepping down.
Oh, okay.
Yep, but I think he'll be around. So his name is Tom Scott. And he was given a very nice little award, a goat, because the golf course used to be called Goat Hill. So learned something new.
Goat.
Yeah, it was.
That's why
cool.
there's little statues of goats.
Yeah, it was
on
a
the
goat
entrance.
farm.
That's fantastic.
That's
I
pretty
love
cool.
that. That's
So, the golf course suffered $200,000 of damage to the storms. Trees torn up, and other structure, furniture taken away. But most of the damage is roof maintenance.
Wow.
repair. So I'm getting some interesting insight into our reality and city politics. Madison is redoing golf courses like Odana. And you'd say that's good news for us, because people want to golf and so they're going to come here, but it's bad news for us. Capacity isn't there. So they're going to raise, fees for people who want it's kind of like a membership, like 33%. So, it's an incentive, but disincentive, but financial opportunity. So yeah, just, interesting stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? All right. Members, we are adjourned.
Thank you.